My entitled family is furious with me as they're demanding that I give up my kidney and donate it to my older sister after she was diagnosed with a severe kidney disease. Because right now, my entire family has turned against me, saying that I'm a terrible family member and that my unwillingness to help out is going to be the reason why my sister passes away. And at this point, I feel like I'm losing my mind because I really don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So my older sister, who I will call Claire, has been diagnosed with a severe kidney disease. Her doctors have said that without a transplant in the near future, she will face a lifetime of grueling dialysis and a significantly shortened life expectancy. And needless to say, our entire family is understandably devastated. Now, I have a complicated relationship with Claire. We were not close growing up, and as adults, we've mostly been civil at family events, but don't have a personal relationship. The main reason for this distance is a pattern of behavior from her that I can only describe as chronically selfish and manipulative. She borrowed a large sum of money from me years ago for a, oh, I can't miss this business opportunity kind of thing, but it absolutely failed. And guess what? She never paid me back, joking that it was contributing to her education in the school of hard knocks. She also missed my wedding for a last-minute vacation with her then boyfriend and has a history of making snide, undermining comments about my career and life choices. When her diagnosis was announced, the family immediately launched a campaign to find a donor. Flyers were made, social media blasts went out, and everyone was talking about how we all need to step up. My mother, weeping, said, "One of us in the family must be a match. We have to save her." A few weeks ago in a family group chat, the topic of living donors came up. My cousin volunteered to get tested, and my mom said that she would, but her age might be a factor. But then my aunt tagged me directly and wrote, "And of course, the original poster, you'll get tested too. Sisters are the most likely matches." When I saw that, I did not respond in the chat, and later that night, I called my parents privately. I told them as gently as I could that I would not be getting tested. I explained that while I sympathize with Claire's situation, I am not willing to donate my kidney. And when I said that, my mom was hysterical. She called me a monster, she called me cold-hearted, and said I was essentially signing my sister's death warrant. My dad, who was usually calm, said that he was profoundly disappointed and that family should do anything for each other. They asked me why, but my reasons didn't seem to land, and I had quite a few. For starters, the risk. While generally safe, kidney donation is still a major surgery with real risk, including chronic pain, hypertension, and future health complications. I'm healthy, and the idea of voluntarily undergoing a procedure that could compromise my long-term health really terrifies me. Secondly, my history had to be taken into account. I flat out told them I don't love my sister in the way that would make me sacrifice an organ for her. Given our history, I feel no deep, selfless bond. I feel like she's a relative that I know and not someone I'd give a part of my body to. Lastly, my own family. Like seriously, I'm married, and my husband and I are trying to start our own family. The thought of going through a pregnancy with one kidney or having a health issue later in life that could be exacerbated by having only one kidney really fills me with anxiety. My future and the future of my potential children, it all feels more immediate and important to me than mending a relationship that was never there. Well, the news spread through the family, and I'm now being bombarded with messages. Some calling me a jerk, but others saying that I'm selfish. My cousin who volunteered said that I'm making this about me, when it's really about Claire's life. Even some family friends have reached out to guilt trip me, but the only person who hasn't said anything is Claire. I don't know if she's too sick, too proud, or if she expected this from me, but a part of me is racked with guilt. A woman's life is on the line, and I'm refusing to even take the test to see if I can help out. I'm being told that my reasons are just excuses, and that my grudges are petty compared to the gravity of the situation. I'm watching my family fall apart, and I'm being painted as the villain for sticking to my decision. So seriously, am I the jerk for refusing to get tested to see if I'm a kidney match for my sister? Because right now I'm honestly not sure what to do. Okay, honestly, this is really heavy. I just want to start off by saying that. Like, I really do feel so sorry for you and your family because this is devastating. Like, you're really not kidding. This is such a hard thing to go through. I'm so sorry you're dealing with this, and I'm so sorry you're getting treated this way. But at the end of the day, this is your body and your decision. These people do not get a say in what you can and cannot do here. If you don't want to give a kidney, then guess what? They cannot make you. And the fact that they think they can is really some crazy behavior. Like, think about that for a second. They're trying to act like, oh, if you don't give her your kidney, she's gonna die. And it's like, holy crap, how can you literally put that on someone like that and expect them to react in any way positive? Especially for a family member who treats me like crap any chance they get. Like, dude, what's going on right now? This is so weird. Like, I'm not saying you can't just like consider this as an option, but for them to expect you to just push aside all the crap this lady's put you through as some kind of like, oh, it's not a big deal. Like, dude, you can't just guilt trip me into giving out my kidney, bro. Like, that's not gonna happen. So no, ultimately, in my opinion, I don't think you would be the jerk by being like, no, I'm not going to give out my kidney. But seriously, at the end of the day, this really is your choice because this is such a heavy situation. And I really hope you and your family find some kind of solution. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled neighbor wouldn't stop running his mouth about me, so I decided to get some revenge by literally humiliating him in front of his wife, which is a lesson I'm sure he is not going to forget anytime soon, especially after I became best friends with his wife. Here's how it all went down. To start things out, I moved to a new subdivision a few months ago, and everyone on my block is kind and friendly for the most part. Last month, a couple moved into the house directly beside me, and honestly, I hardly ever see the wife of the couple, but the husband I see often, and I see him in passing when I'm mowing or working out in the garage or doing something around the house. I always make it a point to wave, say hello, or even offer a beer to break the ice with him, but every time he sees me, he seems extremely rude and annoyed and never replies to me, so I just stopped making an effort to say hi. Well, last week I was working out in my garage and he finally made it a point to say something, but what he had to say was really unpleasant. And also, as a disclaimer, I am a gay man who happens to wear 3-inch shorts because they're comfortable for me, and this is important for what happens next. So as I'm working out, he approaches my driveway and tells me to cut the music, which is exactly what I did right then and there. He then proceeds to say that he doesn't appreciate me listening to rap music and wearing hardly nothing when working out because according to him, it's an eyesore for the neighborhood. I then quickly told him to take that energy somewhere else and see himself off my property. About an hour after, when I was finishing my workout, his wife was just pulling up to the house from work, so I took that as an opportunity to quickly call her over and introduce myself. We were vibing, we were laughing, and she was just a breath of fresh air. But suddenly her husband walks out and asks why she's over at my place talking to me. But what he doesn't know is that I told her everything her husband just said, and when he stepped out, she let him have it. The wife told him to apologize, which he did, and she even said to me that he's just making fun of my shorts because he knows that he absolutely could not fill them out like I do. And I swear to you, I could see the life drain from this guy's face. In summary, this toxic man got a taste of what he deserved today, and instead of being civil, now he has to deal with his very openly gay neighbor being around his wife more often because we are now officially friends, which is something that really could have been avoided if he had simply been a little bit nicer. Okay, I love this so much because first of all, who in their right mind would walk onto someone else's property and say something like this? Seriously, this is so messed up. From the sounds of it, it seems like the original poster was just working out in their garage and their clothing attire literally matched the occasion. Like, I don't know about you, but I go to the gym and I gotta tell you, a lot of people wear shorter clothing because it's easier to move around. And it has nothing to do with them being gay or what music they're listening to. They literally wear shorter clothing because it's easier to move around and work out in. So for this guy to walk onto your property and be like, no, you need to stop it right now. This is an eyesore for the entire neighborhood. Stop it right now. Like, that is some crazy energy, and I am right there with the original poster. But I love the fact that you became really good friends with the wife in this situation because that's going to be way worse for this guy. Because I really think he's never going to get rid of you, and that is honestly hilarious in my opinion. An entitled Karen at Costco wanted me to move my car forward just so she could take my pump at the gas station. But when she didn't get her way, she decided to start swearing at me in a way that was honestly really embarrassing because all of this was incredibly unnecessary. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so I was at Costco a few months ago about to pump gas at a lane that literally had 2 stations available for people to use. So for people who might not know, Costco gas stations have multiple lanes of like 2 to 3 stations, all cramped tightly together, and I'm next to my second station line, and the person in the rear station finished and left. So I parked my car there and was about to start pumping, but I hadn't paid just yet. While I was setting everything up, the person in the front station had left as well. So the car behind me literally rolls her window down and starts shouting something at me. It's this older white lady in her 60s, and I couldn't understand what she was saying, so I just continued to go about my business. But she just sits there and stares at me for a bit, so I look the other way. Well, as I'm fueling, she starts trying to maneuver in between the lanes to get in the front station, and it took her maybe like 2 minutes of slowly driving through the middle lane and then having to reverse into the spot over and over since she couldn't line it up properly. I then realized that she was shouting at me to move my car forward so that she can take my spot so she wouldn't have to do all that. Then, when she finally parked correctly, she did so in a way that makes half of her truck block the middle lane on my side. And I can only assume that she did this to try and screw me over. She then got out of her truck and started mumbling obscenities, and her husband says something to get her to calm down just a little bit. Like, it honestly looked like she was gonna go up and try to hit me or something like that. But regardless, I finished up fueling my car, and because my car is kind of small, I was able to get through the lane even if she was attempting to block me. Because you know what? Screw that lady. Even if I did hear hear what she said. I already had the pump in my car, because at the end of the day, it literally is not my problem that she chose to go to a Costco gas station. Dude, it is always people like this who are super impatient and literally cannot wait for a single second. They not only feel like they're entitled to literally everything around them, but they're also so impatient that literally, if they had just waited a little bit, they still would have gotten to the pump in time. Because some of the people in the comments section pretty much put it exactly how I feel, where it's like, dude, if I'm gonna pump my gas, I'm not responsible for anybody pulling out and moving along. I'm gonna stay where I'm at, I'm gonna pump my gas, which is maybe gonna take like, what, 5 minutes? And then I'm gonna be on my way. If they don't like it, they can go to another pump. They can literally go anywhere else or just try to be patient. But for her to act like you inconvenienced her in some way, like that is so weird and I just can't stand that attitude. Am I the jerk for refusing to clock in my coworker early after they couldn't get to work on time due to dropping their kids off for school? Because after they got in trouble for time theft, I'm now being blamed for them being unable to handle their schedule. And at this point, I'm not sure if I made a mistake and I really just don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 29-year-old female and I'm the team lead for a small support group. One of my techs, a 31-year-old male, is nice in person, but has always been late ever since school drop-off. For months, he asked people to hit the time clock to clock him in when he was like maybe 2 or 5 minutes away from getting to work. And I'm sure you're familiar with that kind of vibe and that kind of coworker. Well, I told him no because the company policy says that everyone clocks themselves in. He then got salty and told me I was being inflexible because I don't have kids. Well, last week it escalated. He messaged me at about 8:15 asking me to log him into the VPN with my token because he left his key at home and would be in by 9. But I said no again. I can't use my credentials for someone else. Also, it would make his login look like it came from my device. But he said that I should be a team player and that if I do this for him, he would bring me coffee. Well, fast forward to 2 days later, and Human Resources emails me and 2 of my managers. They apparently saw some weird login times tied to my queue, as well as tickets being opened up at 8 o'clock from a machine that is not mine, and then reassigned to him at about 9 o'clock. It turns out another coworker had been clocking him in, then parking a fake ticket under my team queue, so it looked like work started at 8 o'clock. And I had no idea they were doing that. Human Resources asked for a timeline and any messages, and I literally just gave them screenshots. So now the guy has a written warning, and the other coworker got one as well. But because of this, people are kind of being cold to me in our chat, implying that I threw him under the bus. He then posted a paragraph in the general channel about how parents need grace, and how single people have more bandwidth, so we should step up when needed. My manager backs me up, but also asked me to be mindful of morale, which feels like code for let it slide next time. I get that childcare is hard, I really do. My sister's a nurse and I watched her juggle shifts and daycare waitlists, but I am not comfortable risking my job or committing time fraud so someone can slide past the badge reader. I offered actual solutions. I asked for a formal shift change, to use PTO for the mornings that he needs, and even talked to Human Resources about flexibility. But he said that was unrealistic and that I don't understand because I go to the gym at 6:30 and I actually have time for hobbies. So am I the jerk for refusing to clock him in and for cooperating with Human Resources when asked about the situation? Because right now I'm not sure what to do. Okay, holy crap, this is not your problem. It's always people who are irresponsible and have all these kids that somehow think that everybody else in the world is responsible for that crap too. And it's like, dude, no, I'm not. How am I responsible for stuff you have going on in your life? Like, seriously, this is not my problem. And I hate that comment where he's like, oh, you have more bandwidth. You need to step up and help me out by clocking me in early and committing time fraud. Like, why should I gamble my job just so you can clock in early and not actually do your work? Because let's think about the alternative here. If you don't cooperate with Human Resources, you could probably lose your job. Like, that sucks. I would be pissed if that happened to me, especially after doing a favor for somebody. Like, that truly is obnoxious and I would lose my mind if that happened to me. So no, your coworker is an idiot and they deserve to be written up because what they're asking you to do really could get you fired, and that would definitely not be worth it. An entitled Karen gets mad at me, all because we won't sell our personal Halloween decorations for our store over to her, putting me in a situation where honestly I was so baffled that I simply didn't know what to say. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so this happened last week and I am still fuming about all of this. So for a bit of context, I work at a gas station and convenience store, and my boss likes to decorate the store for the holidays. For Halloween, she puts up some pumpkins on the top of our cooler, some tablecloths, a happy Halloween sign, etc. My boss was also diagnosed very recently with cancer, and he will be out of the store for a few weeks to recover from surgery. So anyways, a woman comes to our register holding one of these pumpkins, and she says to me, "Can I buy this?" I tell her, "No, that's decoration." And my manager likes to decorate the store. I think she got it at a store down the road if you want to take a look at it. Now, when I told her the name of this store where she got this stuff, she looked at me and said, "Ew, no, I'm not going to the Satan store." So I just shrugged my shoulders and I said, "Well, I'm sorry about that." She then lets out a huff and says, "Well, I'll just ask after Halloween," as if she's proud of her her IDEA. But I replied to her by saying, again, she's pretty happy with her decorations and she never sells it. Besides, she may not be around as she will be in the hospital due to cancer. This lady then has the sheer audacity to say, as she's walking away, then what the heck? I mean, she won't miss it. And I've got to say, my only regret is not snapping back because this lady was a massive jerk. Okay, dude, this is some crazy entitlement because, first of all, if she really thinks the store that these Halloween decorations came from are like the Satan store, then why try to buy them from the convenience store as if this is some kind of like workaround? Like, if this is really what you believe, is this some kind of like religious loophole where it's like, oh, if I don't buy from the store directly, God won't hate me for this? Like, what is going on right now? This sounds like one of those people who use their religion as a shield from any criticism and as a way of like manipulating others and being like, oh yeah, well, I can't go to that store because it's the Satan store. Just sell it to me now so I can get it. Like, holy crap, what an idiot. But for me, the worst part is her making that comment where it's like, oh, well, she's not going to be around. What is she going to worry about it? Sell it to me. And it's like, lady, I would rather burn the decorations in the parking lot than let you take it home with you, especially if you're going to talk like that. So to the original poster, I totally understand where you're coming from, where you're like, dude, I should have snapped back. I should have said something, because I'm the exact same way. I always think about what I want to say after the fact, and I just completely miss the chance I had in front of me, and it's always really painful. But considering the circumstances, I think you had a really level head about this, and honestly, I think you handled it really well. Am I overreacting for telling my boyfriend that I simply won't be his free photographer anymore? Because after I sent him a rate sheet of what it would cost me to help him out, he got really pissed off and is now saying that I'm sabotaging his dream, putting the both of us in a weird situation because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my boyfriend is trying to build a fitness page. For reference, I'm 26 and my boyfriend is 28. When we started dating, it was cute. I'd hold the phone while he filmed deadlifts, I would pick a song, and he would laugh at the outtakes. In the last few months, however, it turned into a whole operation. He texts me at golden hour, which is about 6:50 in the morning, and expects me to be outside with a tripod, 2 shirts, his shaker, and a towel. Saturdays, I'm at the park squatting in weird angles so his jawline looks sharp. And on Sundays, I'm in our hallway editing on CapCut while he's playing ranked video games. I don't even like being on camera, but people in the comments keep calling me camera girl like it's my name. In fact, I missed brunch once because he needed a second take in the stairwell, simply because the neighbor walked by, and at that point, I just wanted to evaporate. I tried to set limits and said, okay, 1 session a week, but he heard, oh yeah, we could do this daily. I asked him to learn the basics so he could run it solo, and he said that my hands are steadier and that my eye is better. Well, last week, he booked a brand shoot with a small supplement shop. He told me that we could deliver 15 reels and 40 photos. And when he says that we can do this, he really means that I'm gonna do it. The unpaid department of everything. They gave him 6 tubs of pre-workout as payment. Now, I'm allergic to caffeine and still ended up scrubbing chalk dust off my leggings for like 2 hours. That night, he casually asked if I could stay up to color grade, where he said, oh, it's just sliders, babe. But at this point, I finally snapped. I told him I'm done being free labor, that I'm happy to help sometimes like a normal partner, but I'm not managing your content calendar. And it's here that I made a simple rate sheet, $35 per hour for filming, $20 per hour for editing, plus a cap of like 4 hours a week. I then sent it to him so it's clear and we don't fight. But when I did that, he got really pissed off and said that I'm sabotaging his dream and making our relationship transactional. He says that real couples support each other, and that if I had like a big exam coming up, he said that I would want him to quiz me. But I told him, no, quizzing is like 20 minutes, not a second job. But now, because of all of this, he's giving me short replies and filming with a friend who DM'd me saying, oh man, you went corporate. So seriously, did I overreact by putting a price and boundaries on something that started as a favor? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I don't think you overreacted because it does sound like he was taking advantage of your kindness while also pretty much ignoring any plans that you might have going on. Because I get it, man. Sometimes you need a cameraman to like take care of what you're doing, but from the sounds of it, it didn't seem like he wanted a camera person. He wanted a full-time intern who also is never going to get paid. And that doesn't seem fair. Like, dude, if you really want stuff done, then do it yourself. Don't just be the on-camera talent and then run off and play video games. Get to work and get it done. Like, seriously, this is your content, not your girlfriend's. So no, you're not overreacting. I think I probably would have done the same thing if this was put on my shoulders, because this all comes off as incredibly disrespectful and you definitely do not deserve this. Am I the jerk for setting boundaries with my roommate after he spent the $200 deposit we had set aside so that our band could have a practice space for rehearsal? Because now we are all super pissed off about this, and at this point we don't know what to do. Here's how it all went down. Okay, to get things started, today my roommate took the $200 deposit that we all chipped in for our practice space and spent it on a spontaneous trip to Maryland with his girlfriend. Then, a few hours later, my brother and I tracked him down at his cousin's place, and this dude is passed out and absolutely wrecked from the night before. But as soon as he opens up his eyes, the first thing that comes out of his mouth is him asking if he can borrow $20. So now the deposit's gone, our booking is on pause, and the band's looking at me like I'm the idiot for trusting him with the cash. He swears that he will pay me back by Friday, but with him, Friday has this magical way of moving. I'm leaning towards giving him a firm deadline, and if he misses it, he's off the lease and out of any money-related responsibilities. I'm also debating whether small claims is worth it for the deposit, or if that's just gonna drain more time and sanity than it's worth. Either way, I am done letting him touch any shared money. From now on, it's paid to the venue or the landlord directly, with no trace of any cash, and everything's gonna be through an app so there is a paper trail. So honestly, am I the jerk for feeling like this and wanting to make these plans when it comes to my friend? Because right now I honestly just don't know what to do because we are all incredibly frustrated. Okay, dude, let me start off by saying, like, why on earth is this guy in your band at all anymore? Like, he clearly can't be trusted with any money, but he also stole the money from pretty much everybody else and said, yes, I'm gonna spend this on a vacation that I wanna go on, instead of using it for a practice space. Like, dude, I would lose my mind if someone did that to me. And I don't know what the dynamics are of your group or anything like that, but if someone was in a band with me and they stole money from the band, that would be like the first and only straw I would ever need to be like, yeah, you're out, you've gotta go. So no, you're not the jerk for being pissed off about this, and you're definitely not the jerk for setting boundaries, because I'm willing to bet this guy would absolutely do all of this all over again if he had the chance. My entitled mother-in-law refuses to invite me on a family trip, choosing to only invite my husband and my 2 sons, with her excuse being that we're not really family, proving once and for all that she truly does not like me. But after I started complaining about this situation and telling my sons exactly why I can't come on this trip, my husband is turned on me and is now calling me a jerk for opening up about my feelings. And now I'm kind of at a loss and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my husband and I have 2 8-year-old twin boys. We both work full-time, and my husband makes a little more than me, but just a little. We make enough to be financially secure, we can afford all the necessities and rent a 2-bedroom apartment, but we have never traveled aside from weekend road trips and probably won't be able to in the foreseeable future. My husband's family is quite well off. A few weeks ago, my mother-in-law called my husband and asked if he wanted to bring our kids to go on a trip with her. She apparently wanted to spend some time with her family, but her supposed family doesn't include me. She has always disliked me and never considered me a part of her family, partly because I'm not very religious. I mean, my husband is, but he respects my lack of belief, and also because she just doesn't like me. My husband knows this and hasn't ever forced me to interact with her, but he still talks to her occasionally. Anyhow, he told me that my mother-in-law had offered to pay for him and the boys to go on a 2-week trip with her around Thanksgiving time. But guess what? I'm not invited. She said that I'm not her real family, so she doesn't want to pay for me as well. And this is word for word according to my husband. She knows that we cannot afford for me to pay to come on this luxury trip. She can afford it pretty easily herself, and I was pretty upset about this because I would love a break too, but I understand that the kids will love this, so I said that of course they should go. I tried to be cheerful about it, but my husband understood that I was upset. He asked my mother-in-law specifically to please invite me as well so that we can have a proper family trip. She reiterated that I might be his family, but I'm not her family. I told him not to push it because I want my kids to have a good time without my husband and mother-in-law fighting during the trip. But I've been feeling pretty angry about the whole thing. So yesterday, when my son asked me why I wasn't more excited about the trip, I told him that I wasn't coming because his grandma hates me. I said this in a bitter tone, and they were pretty upset to hear this. Later, my husband told me I was being a jerk for dumping my feelings on my kids and making them feel guilty about looking forward to the trip. He said I was ruining it for them and also ruining their relationship with their mother. They are pretty close after all. He then called me selfish. So honestly, did I do anything wrong here? Am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Your husband and your mother-in-law are complete jerks. First of all, your husband is a coward. He is not standing up to his mother in the slightest, and he is letting her treat you like garbage in an open manner. Like, this is a blatant form of disrespect, and there's no excuse for him not defending you. Why on earth would she try to be like, well, you're not my family, but your kids are? Like, what is she talking about? Of course you're family. The fact that he is even entertaining having some kind of trip with his mother-in-law while you stay at home and your kids go along is incredibly insulting. I would not stand for that. Look, in my opinion, if the kids are going somewhere, then both parents should be there as well. So the fact that your husband is so willfully letting this slide and basically doing nothing to try and defend your name is unbelievably toxic toxic and a massive red flag in my opinion. There is no excuse for this behavior. Legitimately, there really is no good excuse. And how dare the mother-in-law try and act like this is appropriate? She's trying to pretend like it's okay to split up the family and basically trying to test yours and your husband's boundaries. Because if she can get away with this, then she will absolutely push the envelope further in the future. That's my honest opinion at least. So no, you are not the jerk here. Your husband's a jerk for not even trying to defend you, as well as having literally no spine in this situation, and also your mother-in-law is a complete weirdo. Any grandparent who acts like this has no business being around your kids. And I know if I was in your shoes, there's no way I would ever put up with this. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled coworker treats me like garbage and has constantly been trying to get me fired, so I decide to maliciously comply, and as a result, I make her job just a little bit harder, just to try and get some revenge from her horrible attitude. Here's what happened. I'm a 28-year-old female, and I work in insurance billing for a big medical facility in my area, and one of my daily tasks is to save and download remits from a program daily. I've been at this company for a little over 3 years now, and I know how to do my job, and I do it pretty well. There is this woman that we will call Jane. Jane is not her real name. She's about 51 years old, and she is always trying to make things harder for me, as well as trying to get me fired. There is a set of 4 cubicles where myself, another employee, and Jane sit at, with a printer sitting in the other cubicle. She's lied to higher-ups about me sleeping at my desk, wasting time, playing on my phone, and just overall anything she could come up with, just to try and make me look bad. She's yelled at me for turning the lights off on her, which honestly was an accident, and I apologized to her, but she just kept trying to go off on me, bringing the argument into the parking lot. I just ignored her and kept walking, but that turned into a meeting with the office manager, as well as my direct supervisor, with Jane and other employees and myself. Long story short, I basically told her I didn't understand where all the animosity was coming from. I'd been working here for 2.5 years at this point. She looked at me and said that I got her in trouble my second week of ever being there because she told me something about a job I had no idea about, and I asked my direct supervisor who was training me at the time after that, and she told me how to do something. And this is the reason why she doesn't like me. I didn't go out of my way to get her in trouble or anything like that. I was just confused, so I asked a question. I did apologize to her in the meeting, but she just ignored me. Well, fast forward a week, and I'm sitting at my desk, and she comes up to me to say that she accepted my apology. Then she starts printing out Bible verses and scriptures just to put on her corkboard about forgiveness and how it's not for the other person, it's for yourself. She's literally the meanest person that works here, but she's got this holier-than-thou mentality that makes her think that she's the best thing since sliced bread. And with all things considered, I decided now would be a good time to maliciously comply. So for context, I save and download remits for a few different clients every morning. Mondays are my busiest days for this because I have to pull them from different sites while also pulling them from a program that sends these to us electronically. Jane does billing for one of the same clients I pull remits for, and she needs these remits just so she can make deposits as well as several other things. It usually takes me about 3 hours to complete this for all the clients, mostly because of what would come through over the weekend and on Fridays. So Jane essentially needs these first thing in the morning. Well, apparently, Jane has complained that I keep messing them up when I save and download them. But here's the thing, I know I'm not messing up. In fact, I triple checked myself. I received an email last week stating that Jane was complaining again, so I decided Monday would be the day that I did things a bit differently. I came in and instead of doing Jane's client first, I did the other 4, and then I decided to take my time on Jane's because, you know, I had to make sure every letter and number was 100% correct because she needs them to be. I didn't want her to be upset or anything like that. Well, she was waiting for all the remits for a deposit, so instead of the deposit getting done at 8:30, it instead didn't get done until the next day. I've now been doing hers last since Monday, and I don't know if anything will be said about her taking longer, but I have to do as I'm told and make sure it's correct, right? But I'm honestly sick of Jane, and hopefully I don't have to deal with her in the future. That's really toxic behavior in my opinion. This Jane lady seriously wants to try and act like you're the one with the problem, and then print off all these Bible verses just to try and justify her own toxic behavior. Like seriously, this lady has problems. First of all, you didn't do anything wrong. This Jane lady has had it out for you, all because of a misunderstanding literally 2 years ago. Can you imagine being so petty me that you hold a grudge against a coworker who hasn't bothered you ever, by the way, all because of something they did when they first started. Like, that is insane to me. There's no reason to act like that in the slightest. This Jane lady is the one with the problem. She has no reason to act this way, and she just takes out her frustrations on you for no reason. The original poster also goes on to clarify that she definitely made her voice known when she had that meeting with everybody. She said straight up that Jane has been incredibly nasty while also defending herself against everything that was said about her. So good for the original poster, and hopefully for the sake of your own sanity, you won't have to deal with Jane like this ever again. I accidentally made my partner wait outside until 4 in the morning, and now as a result, he is so angry with me, leaving me unsure of how to apologize or even knowing what to do. Here's what happened. So for a bit of context, my partner and I have been living at my mom's house for a while now. Things have been up and down for both of us, so although it's not the most ideal living arrangement, it's made things slightly easier during this rough patch. However, with situations like this, it's becoming a problem. I've never been so serious and so in love with someone, so I believe sometimes it definitively clouds my judgment on certain situations. But you know what? This time I think I really messed up unintentionally. Last night he messaged me from work to say that he wanted to come home early as he wasn't really feeling too good. For a bit of context, he works at night. I agreed to stay up until he was ready to come home so that I could order him an Uber because public transportation is not 24 hours here and we don't drive. Originally, he said he'd be done by 2 in the morning, so I stayed up, but then he didn't communicate with me until 3 o'clock in the morning, and at that point, I was shattered. I didn't complain though, I just ordered him the cab and waited for him to be in it, so I knew that I'd done what I needed to in order to help him. But this is where everything went sideways. As a bit of side context, every time he leaves for work, my first question is, do you have a key to the house? And his response was, yes, it's in my pocket. So as far as I was concerned, I had done my job for the night, meaning that I could finally rest. So I put my phone back on silent, and I thought to myself he would be home soon for cuddles. But no, he didn't have his key. And of course, I was fast asleep, and I didn't hear my phone because, it was on silent, all the way up to the point where he rang it so many times that the battery went out. He didn't ring the bell because he didn't want to wake up my mom or my son, but to be completely honest, I kind of wish he did. So he ended up waiting outside for over an hour until I eventually woke up, realized he wasn't in bed, and that my phone was out of battery. I could literally feel the panic rushing through my body, and I shot up to rush to the door, and I saw him standing there. I was met with some very vulgar language, and I knew that it wasn't good. He is now so angry at me, and I do completely understand why, but when it comes to my argument, I ask him if he has a key just to avoid this situation from happening, because I know myself, and I can drop like a fly when I'm tired. Anyway, I'm not asking who's in the wrong here, because nothing was done intentionally or maliciously. It is honestly just an awful situation. I just have no idea how to make things right. I know he'll probably get through it, but then I can also see that this is bigger than any other time that we've argued, and I genuinely do feel so horrible about it. How do I apologize to him while also stressing that he needs to be more responsible on his end? What should I do? Honestly, it kind of seems out of place that your partner is not doing more to cover his own transportation. Like, why should you have to stay up until all hours of the night just to try and get him home? Also, this is an adult we're talking about, right? Last I checked, this guy's 27 years old. How does he not have a key to his apartment? Like, isn't that one of the 3 things you grab when you go out the door? For me, I'm always checking if I have my keys, my phone, and my wallet. Like, how did he seriously walk out the door without his key? That is honestly mind-blowing, and that is not your fault. And look, I can understand him being tired and very angry about the situation, but for him to have some kind of grudge and not be willing to have, a conversation about this is really immature in my opinion. So I think it all just comes down to apologizing and trying to find some kind of middle ground. I know if I was in your shoes, I would start off by saying, look, I'm really sorry that I didn't let you in, but also you really need to keep your keys with you and maybe order your own taxi or Uber from this point forward, or something along those lines. Because here's the thing, in my opinion, you're both adults. This is a conversation the both of you absolutely can have. And if he wants to be unreasonable and have some kind of weird grudge against you, then I truly believe the problem is with him. An entitled family comes into our restaurant 10 minutes after closing, and even though I explained to them that we were closing for the night, my pushover manager allowed them to stay. And as a result, this family made my life a living nightmare, and I've honestly never been more angry in my life. Here's what happened. So to start things out, on Tuesday I worked worked a closing shift at a restaurant I work at. Where I work, we close at 9 o'clock p.m. during the weekdays and 11 o'clock p.m. during the weekends. It's also important to add that online, our hours are 11 p.m. all week, even though our actual hours are different. It's been an issue for a few weeks, and we are still trying to fix this because some people tend to walk in after closing. Most of the time, people are understanding and they leave. Sometimes, though, we get a few who are upset and throw a fit, but this Tuesday, I had the most entitled family walk in literally 10 minutes past closing, and I couldn't believe the way they treated me. A man walks in asking if we are still open, and I tell him I apologize, but we close at 9 o'clock and we are closed for the night. He then says to me, "But your hours online say that you close at 11 o'clock. And I then explain to him how we've been trying to get it fixed and that our hours are 9 o'clock p.m. weekdays and 11 o'clock p.m. on weekends. He does say okay and then leaves the restaurant, and I thought he'd leave, but I was very wrong. His wife then walks in with 3 children behind her, asking if we're actually closed or if I'm too lazy to serve them. So I explained to her what I explained to her husband, and my manager actually overhears this conversation. I think it's also important to add that my manager is a complete suck-up to customers, and trust me, you're going to see exactly why. He walks up to us and tells this entitled woman, "Oh, we can add a seat, no problem." So he then just seats them at a table that I had just swept up and cleaned. I asked him why he did that, because for starters, we are closed, and secondly, the kitchen and the bar were also closing up for the night. He then tells me it's better to just let them have their way and not to argue. I then ask if he's expecting our kitchen and bar to stay open all night for this one family, and he tells me, "No, just get their order, and once that ticket is finished, the kitchen will then close up." So I just accepted it and went up to them to get their order. When I walk up to them, I say to them, "Welcome, I just want to let y'all know our kitchen and bar are closing up for the night, so our last calls for any drinks and food items will be right now." And I literally said this since my manager told me that the kitchen would close after I ring their ticket, and that's when the mom chimes in and says, "I really do not appreciate being rushed," which would be understandable if you didn't come in after closing. So after a million questions going back and forth, they finally decided on what they wanted to eat. After they are done ordering, I let them know again that it's last call and that they wouldn't be able to order anything else. And that's when the mom tells me, "Yeah, whatever. Just ring in our food since you want us out so badly." I say to them, "Okay," and then I just walk away. After I bring out their food, they immediately tell me that the dishes I brought out were wrong. They begin to tell me that they actually wanted grilled fish instead of fried fish. They never mentioned any modifications about any fish to me while they were ordering. Also, it wasn't like I was rushing them while ordering, because I answered about 20 different questions about every single dish, just so they would know every detail about the dish. They then tell me, "Whatever, it's fine, we'll just eat it as it is." So then I just walk away, and I let my manager know that their food is out and that the kitchen is good to close up. 5 minutes go by, and I go and check on this family to see if they need anything else. And my God, they completely ruined the booth they were sitting at. Food was all over the floor, and grease was all over the seats where the kids were sitting. I think I let it show on my face the shock I felt, because the mom said, "Yeah, you're gonna have a lot to clean up." I try to keep my composure and ask if they need anything else, and they tell me, "Yes, we want to order to go," but I then tell them that they can't because last call was while they were ordering. And it's right about now that this woman goes crazy. She starts demanding all of the food they ate for free, while also saying that I'm an awful server for not letting them order to go. At this point, I just walk away. I go print their tab so that they can pay and finally leave, because I was done with this woman's behavior. When it came time to be paid out, the husband pulls out a stack of cash and gives me the exact amount, and then he gives me a penny. He tells me, "Here's your tip," but I refuse to let it get to me. I simply handed him his penny back, and I just told him to get home safe and that they need to leave. After they left, I go and clean up the mess that they made, including the children's boogers off the wall, because they also left that for me to clean up. After all was done, I left at around 11 o'clock p.m. to go home. And honestly, I hope that mom gets karma for the way she treats people. Wow, I honestly don't know if I would continue working there if that happened to me. Like, first of all, your manager sucks. I've said it once and I'll say it 100 times. Any manager, and I mean any manager, who throws their coworkers under the bus just to try and make themselves look good, while also trying to pander to customers or clients or whomever, they, in my opinion, are absolute dirtbags. That is so inappropriate, and it goes against literally everything you were trained to do at this restaurant. restaurant. Like, this is not fair for you or the kitchen in the slightest. So for him to step in like that really makes you look bad. It makes you look like the bad guy even though you were just doing your job. Like, my man, it's a Tuesday night. Why are we letting people into the restaurant? We are about to close. Do you not understand what that means? Now, I've worked in the restaurant industry as a server and a busboy, and I can tell you after a long day, the last thing I want to deal with is somebody coming in after closing. Like, I literally just want to go home and get some sleep because chances are I've got an early morning the next day. But these people come in 10 minutes after closing. I'm kind of surprised the doors weren't closed at that point, or maybe like the front door was locked or something like that. Something to make it very clear, hey, we're closed and you can't come in to eat. Also, I can only imagine how angry the kitchen must be. They're probably freaking out, sitting there thinking to themselves, wait a second, I thought we were going home. The one golden rule of the restaurant is that you don't upset the kitchen, because the kitchen is literally the lifeblood of the restaurant. You can have the best service possible, you can be the most charming waiter on planet Earth, but if the kitchen walks out, none of that matters. They really are the MVPs of the restaurant, and they really do deserve the credit that they get. So overall, this is an awful situation. Your manager sucks, and the customers that you had to deal with are just awful. And I'm not even exaggerating here. Like, think about what they did. They didn't listen to anything you said. They tried to order after you said, hey, we can't order anything else, so get it all while you can. And they also tried to act really entitled over the dumbest things. And then at the end of it, they destroy the booth that you just cleaned while also trying to give you a penny for a tip. That is so inappropriate and so disrespectful. So if I was in your shoes, I would make it very clear to my manager that if he ever does that again, he will be the one to wait on the people that he lets in. Because what you dealt with was so unprofessional, and it literally all stems back to your manager being an absolute pushover. My entitled sister demands that me and my husband go to her wedding that is scheduled to be a destination wedding outside of the country. But even when I explain to my sister that I can't afford to go out of the country just to go to her wedding, she doubles down, proving to me once and for all that she doesn't care about me or my family in the slightest. And I'm honestly so blown away by her attitude, and I can't believe the way that she treated me. Here's what happened. My younger sister has always had issues with entitlement, taking advantage of others, throwing fits and being verbally awful, and just being a miser. And I'm not trying to dispense an armchair diagnosis, but she does check every box of being a narcissist. A few years ago, she announced her engagement to a nice guy who is a pushover. He expressed not wanting to get married for a while, but she ended up proposing to him. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but she really kept pressuring him to get married. He comes from a wealthier family than us and is good with money and investments. So this is the perfect combo for her to take advantage of and have someone to bankroll her delusions. He wanted a modest local wedding so that friends and family could attend. My sister decided she wanted a destination wedding outside of the country. At the time, my husband and I didn't have the best paying jobs. He was working on a second degree, and we had eminent goals of buying our first home together. We regretfully declined her invitation because the trip would cost us $3,000 to $4,000, of the which we just did not have. It would have had to go on a credit card. When we didn't reserve our spot, my entitled sister said that she and her now husband wanted to pay for everything so that we could attend. My husband and I were floored because, for starters, that is a lot of money. And secondly, my sister has never been one to offer to pay for anything. So we accepted her offer with a lot of gratitude. A couple of months go by and she asked if my husband and I have booked our airplane tickets and our hotels yet. She then said, they just keep getting more expensive the closer they get to the date, you know. But I thought to myself, wait, what are you talking about? I have never expected anyone to just give me anything, but my financial situation hasn't changed. We tell her this and she says, well, my husband and I looked at all the prices a while ago and it is just too much money, so you guys will have to take care of it yourselves. But we just ignored her and went on with our goals. Months go by and my husband and I were getting better jobs and we were about to buy our house. My sister then comes back and asks again if we purchased our tickets, despite repeatedly telling her no, we didn't. So we tell her again that no, we haven't done that, and at this point with our new jobs, we are not allowed to take any time off yet, and we don't have enough PTO anyways. When I started my job, they offered to honor upcoming events if I needed time off, but I had said that I didn't need anything since I already planned on not going to the wedding. We didn't have savings, and we took on a mortgage, so we cannot tack on credit card debt as well. I was so annoyed with her constantly saying, you just need to figure it out, as well as all the other tantrums that she would throw, basically implying that if we didn't show up, we didn't really love her. So I tried trying to frame it differently just so maybe she could understand. I told her that attending her wedding would literally mean that we would have to no-show at work. We would likely lose our jobs and not be able to pay our mortgage, and then we would lose our house. I then said to her, "So you're okay with my husband and I losing our jobs and our house and risking homelessness so that we can attend your wedding?" And of course, as you might have already guessed, she did not have a good answer to that question. She has no concept of money because she has always manipulated people into paying for her. She has never been able to hold a job. She has no empathy for others, yet she thinks that she is deserving of special treatment. I don't understand where it came from because our parents raised us to be hardworking and not to expect anything from anyone. Even our parents and my husband and I couldn't afford to attend. Her husband's family could and wanted to go, but she wouldn't allow it because apparently it would be weird to only have his family there and not hers. She literally put up a huge paywall and then blamed us that she would have to elope and then went no contact with us. And here's the thing, when we accepted her offer to pay for our trip, she had said to not worry about anything at all. She said she would book our flight and hotel and literally everything, while also telling us to sit back and relax because she really just wanted us to be present at her wedding. She even gave us dates to put in time off requests at our old jobs so that we could accommodate this situation. So that's why we didn't buy anything with the intention of her reimbursement. And we were really just surprised when she asked us if we had done anything in terms of booking stuff. I should have known better since all of that is very unlike her. But regardless, it is such a relief that she is no longer in contact with us because she has treated us so poorly, and I can't imagine having a lifetime of dealing with her attitude. Yeah, your sister is an absolute moron. Who in their right mind would be like, "Oh, don't worry about it. I'll pay for your tickets and your hotel and all this other stuff." And then turning around and be like, "Hey, did you book your hotel and your flight yet?" It's like, are you insane? Like, what are you talking about? So she not only lied about booking your tickets, but she then tried to flip the script and be like, "Oh, but it's your turn. You're gonna have to buy all this stuff." That's insane to me, and honestly, I don't blame you for wanting to get away from her. This is a huge blessing in disguise for her to be like, "Oh, I'm never contacting you again. You're the reason I had to elope." Lady, you're scheduling a wedding that nobody can afford. No one can afford to leave the country just to appeal to your stupid wedding. I mean, the original poster has it right. This is literally a paywall of their own doing, and there's nobody to blame except for this stupid entitled sister. And it really blows my mind that she didn't care about you possibly losing your job or even not being able to pay for, your new house if you did decide to go on this trip. I mean, I don't know about you, but I definitely don't have a couple $1,000s sitting around. I personally can't just drop that all of a sudden just to go on some island getaway to go to somebody's wedding. Like, that is absolutely not gonna happen, and anyone who would try to force that on me no matter what is seriously out of their mind. So honestly, good riddance to this entitled sister. She clearly is a piece of work, and I honestly feel really bad for her husband. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not wanting to stay home for the night with my daughter while my wife goes out with friends? Here's what happened. So to start things out, my wife rarely goes out with her friends, maybe 6 times a year, and has never been very social and prefers spending time with me. I am more social, but that has declined as we are focusing on our family. We do have a 2-year-old daughter after all, and I spend time with the same 3 friends once a week for game nights that are either in person or online. I have another 3 friends that I see only once every 2 months, and this is also for game nights. If I go out, my wife will tend to our daughter. I often still help with dinner and bedtime, but sometimes I leave earlier than this. Our daughter's bedtime is about 7:30 p.m., and she often sleeps through the night without any kind of problems. She maybe wakes up about 5% of the time. I always offer for my wife to sleep in the next day, or even something similar in exchange for me going out, so that it's not just a one-sided thing. Now, with that bit of context out of the way, here's the scenario that we are currently in. My wife made plans to spend an evening this weekend out with friends, and she would be out from 6:00 p.m. until late at night. After she made those plans, I was invited to my friend's birthday thing with my second friend group, and if I went, I would be gone from 5 p.m. until very late as well. Last time I saw them was exactly 1 month ago. I brought this plan up with my wife as I wanted to make arrangements for a family member to take our daughter for the evening, but she was irritated by this and argued that I should stay home. I have since spoken with a family member who is happy to take our daughter at 5 o'clock and have her stay the night, and I've communicated this to my wife. I made it clear that this will not affect her plans at all. I will be responsible for drop off and pick up of our daughter, and I will not not ask anything of my wife because I understand that it is rare for her to have a night out like this, and so I don't want her to change her plans at all just for me. But she still thinks that I should stay home. This is her argument. She says that since she always covers for me, that I should also cover for her. She also doesn't want to ask this family member to have our daughter for the night because she thinks we ask way too much of them. But in contrast, this is my argument. I am covering for her, as she does not have to change her plans and doesn't have to do anything for our daughter. Also, this family member loves watching our daughter, and my wife is often quick to agree to leave our daughter there for sleepovers plenty of other evenings, purely out of just convenience. So I don't see why this time is too much to ask. I feel like she wants me to stay at home as a form of punishment for going out more frequently than she would prefer. And sure, the word punishment feels too strong of a word. I mean, I don't think there's any kind of major resentment behind this or anything like that. I just don't know how else to describe the feeling. So am I the jerk here for making plans to go out the same night as my wife, even though I've got everything figured out for our daughter? What should I do? So from my perspective, it does kind of seem like your wife is trying to punish you. It really does come off as if she wants you to stay at home, just like she's had to stay at home for plenty of other arrangements. But on the other side of this, your wife never gets to go out. She only goes out to see her friends maybe 6 times a year, whereas you get to see them once a week. That's a lot more hangouts and a lot more nights out that you get to spend, while she's at home unable to see her friends. But personally, here's my opinion. I don't think there's anything wrong with leaving your daughter at the family member's house while you go to this friend's birthday party and spend time with them. I really think you have everything set up, and it sounds like you have all of your bases covered. The only part of this that would really make me think that this is a bad plan is the fact that your wife really does not like this. That alone would really make me rethink my plans and maybe just tell my friends, hey, I can't make it this time. I've got to watch the kid. I mean, in my opinion, I think you really should work with your wife on figuring out the best situation for your daughter, and if she disagrees with her being watched by another family member, then I think you might need to take some time to see where she's coming from with this. But that's just my opinion. What would you do in this situation? Would you try to find a babysitter to watch your kid in this situation? Or would you stay home to watch the kid and miss out on the birthday party? Leave a comment down below. We would love to hear what you have to say. Today, I messed up by ruining my husband's relationship with his best friend. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So my husband and I are both 35 years old, and we have been together for 7 years and married for 5. He has 2 older brothers that he isn't particularly close with, and the one person he is very close with is his cousin by the name of Aaron. Aaron is not his real name. They lived together after my husband graduated college. He was the best man at our wedding, and Aaron even lived with us for a year while we were married so he could finish school. I like Aaron a lot. He has felt like a brother-in-law to me, much more than my actual in-laws have ever felt. My husband and I have had a rough 3 years. Between COVID, there was a point where both of our fathers were in terrible health. We've dealt with infertility issues, and sadly, in July, we had a stillbirth at 34 weeks pregnant. And Aaron has been there for us through all of that. He is probably the person my husband can lean on the most for support. Well, last night, I get a call from Aaron's lifelong girlfriend by the name of Jennifer. Jennifer is also not her real name. She asked if it was okay if she could come over and have some girl talk with me. Now, Jennifer and Aaron have been together about as long as my husband and I have been together. She has 3 kids from a previous relationship, and we love them. They spend the night at our house, and her older kids dog sit for us. She comes over and proceeds to tell me some serious problems that she has had with Aaron, and she is at a loss at what to do. Here's the main crux of her issues. Aaron has an insane amount of debt and has basically used her as a place to crash for 7 years. He is constantly criticizing her for her parenting, saying that she babies her teenage children, and finally, he's lying about where he's going, and his locations that she can see has him visiting a sketchy massage parlor, if you know what I mean. Now, I hate to say it, but the financial issues and the parenting issues, I kind of already vaguely knew about it. Even myself and my husband have called Aaron out about how he talks about the teenagers, but clearly I had no idea how bad it was. We talked through it, and I flat out asked her, if you really think he's going to a massage parlor for sketchy business, would you then still stay with him? And when I asked her that, she said yes. So I just gave her some advice about boundaries and talking to him, and then I just left it at that. After she left, I went upstairs and told my husband what happened. He then proceeds to have a complete breakdown. He is in tears. I finally get him to talk, and he starts saying things like, can I just have one person in my life that I can trust? I can't even go to my brothers to talk, and now I can't even trust Aaron because I know what he's been doing, while also screaming out that he's better than this. I mean, he was just completely and utterly destroyed. I feel terrible. I didn't even think about it when I told him what Jennifer said said. I didn't even think that it could ruin their relationship. Aaron is the only person he goes to for advice and really looks up to as a big brother, and I just completely destroyed that image. Right now, at least, I'm going with a classic strategy of pretending like it didn't happen, but I just feel like I completely took away the one family member who he felt comfortable turning to for emotional support. So did I mess up here? I mean, my husband's reaction really makes me think that I did. The minute I realized he was breaking down and crying, in my head I was thinking, oh no, I messed up big time. I just feel so horrible for making him upset. And I know that it wasn't me, it was Aaron that did this to him, but maybe it's the former Catholic in me. I'm just programmed to feel inward blame for some reason. Fast forward, and I've tried my best to avoid the subject about Aaron and Jennifer. My husband and I both work from home, so we see each other a lot. Then, while I was in the shower, he came into the bathroom and said, by the way, yes, I'm still upset about Aaron. And I just thought to myself, oh no. We went out for dinner last night and I did apologize to him. I didn't exactly say, I'm sorry I told you this, but I said something along the lines of, well, I'm sorry this happened. And he said to me, you have absolutely nothing to apologize for. I am just so angry at Aaron. But me, being the paranoid person that I am, I asked him anyways and I said, are you sure you aren't mad at me at all? My husband just said to me, I'm about 1% mad at you because you probably shouldn't have told me after I ate my gummies. And for context there, we take Delta 8 gummies at night to help us sleep. I guess he had already taken a few by the time I came upstairs. Now, I did tell him that there were more awful things that Aaron has done that I didn't get a chance to tell him because he was so upset at the time. I asked him if he wants to know that stuff, to which he said, well, not now, maybe another night. And at that point, we just enjoyed our steaks and chilled for the evening. Honestly, I don't know what is going to happen moving forward. He is very insistent that he is not going to reach out to Aaron, and Aaron still has no idea Jennifer talked to us or that my husband knows all the garbage he's done. So at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, I don't think you did anything wrong. If I had a best friend or a cousin I was really close with who was acting like a complete fool, and my partner just so happened to know some information about them, I would absolutely want to know what's going on. I would not want to be kept in the dark about that. That is someone that I trust and look to for emotional advice. And sure, you can probably still do that, but Aaron's behavior is completely inappropriate. And I know that personally, once I would find that information out, I would probably be looking to somebody else for emotional comfort. That's just me personally. So in my opinion, at the end of the day, you didn't do anything wrong. And I really think you helped your husband out in the long run. My girlfriend gave me a 1-week ultimatum to decide if I want to marry her or not. And at this point, I'm freaking out, and I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, so for a bit of background, we first started talking about the possibility of marriage or engagement only 2 months ago, although we had been dating for over a year by that time. Not only had we not talked about marriage, but we hadn't even talked about any details whatsoever about a future together. Also, neither of us have ever been married before. I had been hesitant to bring up the future with her because I knew that I wasn't sure yet, so she was the one to finally bring it up 2 months ago. I discovered that she is 100% ready to get married, and she discovered to her great disappointment that I was still unsure, and she had assumed that I would be 100% ready. Furthermore, she told me that she wanted to get married by this coming February because her mom would be visiting soon from out of the country and would be heading back home in February. So the time from which we started discussing marriage, which was about August, to her ideal marriage date in February, leaves only 6 months for me to make up my mind, get engaged, plan a wedding, and then have the wedding. The main reason she gives for insisting on a rapid timeline is concerns over her biological clock, meaning that both of us do want to have kids. I was completely freaked out and caught off guard by her proposed timeline. I'm a very analytical person, a classic overthinker, and prone to heavy anxiety over big decisions. I told her that my ideal timeline would be that we would get engaged by February, but we wouldn't get married by then. I felt this would give us enough time to thoroughly discuss our future all before getting engaged, and enough time for me to feel comfortable about the decision. Now, neither of us have been willing to bend on our ideal timelines. I mean, I still feel like I need more time, but she believes that I've had plenty of time to make up my mind, and not only from the 2 months that we've been talking about it, but also due to the prior year that we had been dating, but not talking about marriage. While both of us have been trying to assert our preferred timelines, one difference is that I've at least tried to express empathy and my understanding of her needs. Meanwhile, I can't recall any time she has expressed any empathy for my needs on this topic. On Monday, we met up, and she told me that she can't bear to wait any longer for me to decide. So she issued an ultimatum for the end of this week to decide whether to break up or to commit to the February marriage. Now, because of this, I've been in an anxiety anxiety-ridden, depressive state all week from the pressure. I definitely don't feel ready to make a decision, but I also don't want to miss a chance on what could potentially be a great future with her. Just because I was being indecisive, I also don't want to hurt her. I mean, honestly, how do I navigate this ultimatum? Do you think she's right that I should have been able to decide by now? I appreciate any advice, including if there is some way to navigate this situation while honoring my need for more time and her need for some kind of decision. What should I do? Okay, so honestly, I can kind of see both sides of this. For starters, I totally understand the anxiety when it comes to having an ultimatum placed upon you. That can really be stressful, and I know for me personally, I don't really like timelines like that being placed on me so suddenly. Like, that really would stress me out, so I totally understand where you're coming from. But the other side of this with your girlfriend really does make sense. For some additional context, the original poster here is 43 years old, and his girlfriend is 39 years old. It's not like these two are in their early 20s or anything like that. It's not like they're inexperienced in the dating world. These are two people who are practically in their 40s trying to figure out their life. And it sounds like the girlfriend is really trying to push the envelope, and honestly, I can see why she would want to do that. You have been dating for well over a year, and the two of you have been talking about your possible life for 2 months, or at least you should have been. I mean, has the original poster even been talking about a future with this woman for what, 2 months now? It seems like your girlfriend brought up marriage because she's probably like, okay, when is he gonna do it? And look, if you want to try and have kids at some point in your life, you should probably jump on that bandwagon faster than normal. You are 43 years old after all. So with that all in mind, I really understand where the girlfriend's coming from. I mean, the both of you are very clearly adults. You are both very clearly at that age where you need to decide what you want to do with your life. I mean, in my opinion, by that point, if you do want to have kids and have some kind of marriage and a life together, then that clock is definitely ticking, and it's either time to make a move or walk away. But I really think whatever decision you decide to make, it should be based on how you feel about your girlfriend as opposed to your anxiety over having to make a decision. Like, if I was in your shoes, I would really be thinking about, okay, do I really want to be married to this woman, or is this seriously not the right time? But I wouldn't allow my anxiety over making a decision be the thing that's like, okay, well, I'm just not going to be with you then. I personally think that would be a massive mistake, and I think you would really regret that later on. So hopefully this goes well for both you and your girlfriend, because honestly, with all things considered, I think your girlfriend has a really good point, and I really think it's time to make a decision. My entitled coworker loses her mind when she finds out I put in my 2-week notice, because after she found out this news, she made it her goal to try and get me fired, as well as sabotage my new job. And as a result of her vindictive and awful behavior towards me and the company, she eventually ended up getting fired. And I've never been happier to be away from a crazier coworker in my life. Here's what happened. So I'm a 30-year-old female, and I've been working at a super small construction company for the past 2 years. I put my best foot forward every day and never had any issue with anyone in the company. As of 3 months ago, they moved me from an in-field coordinator to an accounting position. It was an emergency move, as one of the employees stole $80,000 from the company, and they needed an immediate replacement. My new supervisor, we'll call her Mary, that's not her real name, is 34 years old and was always super kind to me, and we've become pretty good in-work friends. But these last couple of months have been a nightmare. I hate the new position, and to be fair, I'm not very good at it. So I found a new position, and I've been keeping it a secret for a while. I let the owner know first, and he was very kind and receptive to it. The issue started when Mary got word of it. She immediately cornered me and started going on this rant saying things like, "Why didn't you tell me? You're being incredibly unfair and selfish. I can't believe you would do this to us. This is unacceptable. Don't ask for a referral because you are not getting one from me." And she just went on and on. I politely told her that the opportunity was something I simply couldn't pass up. She then went to the owner and asked for any details I might have given him about the new company and the new position. And honestly, at that point, I believe she was trying to sabotage me leaving. Thankfully, I didn't discuss any details about it with anyone. It was very awkward after that, but I didn't think anything of it. But the next day is when things took a turn for the worst. Mary decided to be petty and removed all of my authorizations to any accounts I had, so I couldn't perform any of my daily duties. I didn't want to leave on a sour note, so I brought it up to the owner as Mary was out of the office that day. He reauthorized my accounts, and I continued to work. Mary was back the following day and was completely livid that I had went around her and talked directly to the owner, and her actions towards me would only get worse from here on out. The next day, I came in to notice that my desk was moved and my computer access was taken away yet again. So that's when I decided to maliciously comply. Since I couldn't do any of my daily daily tasks, and I really didn't feel like dealing with a screaming Mary, I decided to jump online for basically the entire day. At the end of the day, Mary came into my new back storage office and said, "Did you have a busy day today? I know mine was." So I just smiled and said, "Yep, mine was exhausting." She did not like that response and went to the owner to say that I was purposefully not doing my job and my last 2 weeks would be pointless, so they should just let me go right now. But the owner disagreed. He called me into his office, and after I explained what she had done, he gave me access again and told Mary that she had to work from home. Another day goes by, and it's extremely peaceful now that Mary is working remote. But unfortunately, this does not mean my day was getting any easier. Instead of taking my access away, she had the IT department start forwarding all my emails to other employees in other departments that had nothing to do with my specific position. Now, at this point, I only have 3 days left, and so I just took it as an, okay, this sucks for them, but it's on Mary's head if anyone has any questions. I looked at my PTO, and I had way more than I thought I had. So I thought to myself, why not just use those for my last days? And that's exactly what I did. I was originally supposed to let all vendors know and starts forwarding them off to the appropriate people and interview second-round candidates for my position. But you know what? I'm not doing that anymore. The owner was completely okay with it and understood that Mary was being toxic and that he would have a talk with her about her attitude and position if this continues. Now, with my last 2 days and me being on PTO, I finally thought I was safe from Mary, but lo and behold, she was still holding a massive grudge, as if me leaving my position was a personal attack on her. She called me at 4:30 in the morning and left me a voicemail saying that our company was having an accounting emergency and I need to come in right away. I called her back about 4 hours later, which she was fuming about, and went on a massive rant about how I'm being extremely entitled and I will never get anywhere with my attitude. She said she's embarrassed for our company to say that I ever worked here, and that if she ever finds out where I will be working, she will make sure that I'm fired and will never get a job in this town ever again. But when she said that, I just laughed at her, and then she went ballistic. And this was like when you take a 4-year-old's toy away from them. She was screaming so loud, her voice was shaking, saying silly things like I have no respect for her, or that I was gonna rot in Hades. Eventually, I just hung up on her once she started bringing my family into things. And after that, I called the owner and explained to him what happened, which he was not shocked about. He then told me that when she came in that morning, she was going on a rampage like the Tasmanian devil. After finding out why she was freaking out, he promptly fired her. I was shocked, since this was a small company and he definitely needed her. I eventually heard from another coworker that she ended up destroying a bunch of company property on her way out, and now she's facing a lawsuit due to all the damages. And I'm honestly just so thankful that she revealed her true self to everyone, and that I'm very far away from that company and her. Wow, that lady burned literally every bridge in that company. She seriously went on a rampage when you said, yeah, I'm gonna quit this position, I'm not doing this anymore. She very clearly took that personally in some kind of way, and she then made it her goal to try and ruin your life. Like seriously, what is wrong with her? Why would you on a professional level act like that towards anybody? Here's the thing about working a job. I've learned that anybody is replaceable. Aside from like the owner of a business, any person in any degree of authority absolutely can be replaced at the drop of a hat. And this Mary lady is no exception. I mean, she was running around that office as if she owned the place. She clearly had some kind of chip on her shoulder about you leaving, and that in my opinion is so weird. Like, why not be gracious about this and try and be supportive of a coworker? You very well could work with them or for them in the future. Who knows where your career could go? Why not try and stay friends instead of making an enemy? And it certainly doesn't help that Mary was trying to throw wrenches in the wheels of the original poster. I mean, they did try to cut off access to everything this person had. They were constantly being a nuisance and being so rude to the original poster, all with the main goal of trying to ruin this new job opportunity for them. And you know what? I'm pretty sure if Mary knew about your new job, she absolutely would try and sabotage it. So honestly, with all things considered, I'm really glad that Mary got fired, and I'm so glad that you got out of that job. She does not sound like a stable person, and seriously, it was much better for you to leave than to deal with that lady on a daily basis. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Today, I messed up by making a dinner reservation under a celebrity's name. Here's what happened. So this happened back in 2018, and I honestly still regret it to this day. My wife and I were in Buffalo, New York for a friend's wedding. We checked into a hotel the night before and noticed that there was a Morton Steakhouse attached to the hotel. My wife suggested we go there for dinner, and I told her I'd make reservations reservations online once we get checked into our room. While she was taking a shower, I made the reservations. When the site asked for a name, I put in my first name, and then I was prompted to put in a last name. For some reason, I thought it'd be funny to put in Galifianakis, which is the name of the actor, and yes, I did have to Google it just to spell it. I smirked as I confirmed the reservation and didn't think about it again. For reference, I have a beard similar to his in The Hangover, and our body shapes are arguably the same, but that's honestly about it. In a low light setting with some distance, if someone said to you that I was him, you really wouldn't be able to deny it. I usually wear a hat as well, and this evening was no different. About an hour later, we headed down to the restaurant for dinner, and this place was very busy. My wife approached the hostess and told her we had a reservation under Zach. I was standing about 10 feet away in a sea of people, but as soon as I saw how the hostess reacted with a huge smile, I immediately remembered what I did. I quickly thought to myself, oh no, they think it's really him. As I approached, I could hear the hostess tell my wife, we've arranged a table in a more private setting for you both. My wife turned around and stared into my soul. Now, I've seen this look so many times from her, and it's always for the same reason. She mouthed the words, what did you do? And before I could say anything, the hostess said, please follow me. None of the other guests could be bothered, but I could feel a bunch of eyes on me from every single person that worked there as we followed the hostess to our secluded table. Even the cooks in the kitchen stopped what they were doing to get a glimpse. It was very clear when the reservation came in, the word spread and excitement was in the air. As the hostess handed us our menus, a very pregnant waitress approached the table, and this is where it all came crashing down. As she welcomed us to the restaurant, I blurted out and said, I'm sorry, I'm not Zach Galifianakis, to which she replied with a smile, yeah, I can see that. The look on my wife's face was priceless, but I was too deep into damage control to even address it. I said, look, I'm an idiot, I thought it'd be funny, and I wasn't ready for what the waitress was about to unload on me. She said to me, I'm actually a huge fan of Zach, and when the reservation came in, the hostess ran to the back and told my manager. He actually asked me specifically if I wanted the table because he knew how much of a fan I was. And yes, right about now, I felt absolutely horrible. Luckily, she seemed to have a great sense of humor, and I also think she knew I was genuine with my apology. The restaurant took our picture and I signed it. The title of it said, My Date with Zach, and when we left, I gave her about $100 for a tip. But honestly, with all things considered, I really feel dumb and incredibly embarrassed. Wow, that is really embarrassing. I can only imagine going to a restaurant and then reserving your name under a celebrity name. That is a serious gamble, and honestly, what happened in this story very easily could have happened to anybody. So I think the original poster learned a valuable lesson, and next time they try and reserve a table, they'll just use their name to avoid this interaction ever happening again. Am I the jerk for using money from my child support to buy things that I want? Because at this point, my mom's upset, and I'm honestly not sure what to do. Here's what happened. So my parents divorced when I was 8 years old. The custody was basically split in a 70-30 arrangement, and my dad was ordered to pay child support. I recently turned 18, and we started a conversation about if it was necessary for it to carry on or not. My mom was very adamant that it should be continued, and my dad accepted with the condition that the money was put into a bank account and that I could have access to use it anytime I want. So we opened an account in my name, which both me and my mom can have money from. I have been using it a lot, mainly to buy courses, Uber drivers, and ordering food. I know it's irresponsible and I probably should manage the money a bit better, but it just feels nice to be able to pay for the things I want. Well, today my mom sat me down to have a chat about it. She said that she uses the money to pay for my things and that I can't use it that much. I said that I understood, but that dad said I could use it anytime that I want. We argued for a bit, and she said that if I didn't learn how to control my spending better, I should then just go ahead and live with my dad. But here's my defense. It's not like I'm spending all of the money. I mean, dad is very annoying about saving and how we should always be prepared for pretty much anything, so I put a portion of it in a savings account. And even of the money that is left, I spent about half of it in total. But I do understand that if my mom wanted to do something with the money, she would have to reform her plans to fit my spending. My dad says that the money is technically mine to do whatever I want with, but that I should be mindful of excessive spending and plan an arrangement with her on how much we each can take from the account. My mom says that I'm still too young to manage that money and that I don't know what I'm doing. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Okay, honestly, I think the way you're spending this money is really irresponsible. For starters, you don't even have a job. You're just using this money to buy like Uber Eats and get all this food and clothing. Meanwhile, your mom needs help supporting the house. Like, sure, these funds are being used for whatever you want, but at the end of the day, it kind of seems like you're blowing this money down the drain. Like your mom is right. It really seems like you're being very selfish and you're wasting money that's meant to pay for your expenses. And now your mom's gonna have to find other means just to cover the cost of things. So yes, in my opinion, I think you're being a massive jerk right now. It really seems like you're taking advantage of the system and you're spending this money even if you're trying to save some of it in a bank account in a way that is really irresponsible. Am I the jerk for requesting my next door neighbor quiet down their toddler who seems to cry at all hours of the day and night? Here's what happened. So for a bit of context, I'm a 36-year-old female and I live next door to new tenants who moved in some 6 months ago, and they have a toddler that's about 3 years old. He shrieks at all times of the day and just does the whole throwing himself on the ground tantrum thing literally multiple times a day. Due to the hybrid work model, I work from home 3 days a week. It's become a regular occurrence to have multiple instances of managers or even my clients asking why there's a child crying in the background. Fast forward, and over the weekend, I met my neighbor upstairs, and she asked me if I also woke up really early, very shocked at the noise. Now, for context, last Saturday, the whole building woke up at 5:45 in the morning because the child in question was screaming, and it went on for a good 20 minutes. Now, here's some information about the kid itself. The child is healthy, and we always see the kid outside playing. The mom is also a stay-at-home mom. There is no neglect or anything like that. The child is well looked after. He looks about 3 years old and goes to a play school in the mornings, but he hasn't been going this week. Now, on to what happened today. I'm working on something critical while handing off my responsibilities due to a transition as well as having back-to-back phone calls. Over the course of 4 hours, I had to keep pausing my call. At one point, a really important client from another continent asked me if I needed to be excused to take care of my child. They even asked if I needed to reschedule the call. Another person on the call chimed in with the same sentence. They basically said to me, "We should not be neglecting a child because our call is running long." I then profusely apologized to them, and I also informed them that it was the neighbor's child. But they mentioned how it sounds like it's happening in my house. After the call ended, I went out to the balcony and, in a very respectful way, asked the mother if the child was unwell. But she didn't like that question, and then she asked me why. I asked her again if the baby is unwell, but she said no. She mentioned that she took away something that he was trying to eat, and that's why he was crying. I explained to her what happened on my calls, and she finally snapped at me and said, "He's a baby, what do you expect?" I then asked her straight up, "Well, if I didn't talk to the child's mother, who else do I have to speak to?" I explained that I completely understand the challenges of being a mother, and I'm sure it's incredibly overwhelming, but this is happening so many times in the day, and it's really not letting me focus on my work. And after I said that, she literally started crying. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? I personally don't think you're the jerk in this situation. I think you're doing everything you can to try and make sure you have some kind of work environment that doesn't include this lady's stupid kid crying all the time. Like, think about it. You're working from home, you're trying to get stuff done and have some kind of professionalism. Meanwhile, your clients think that you're neglecting your child. But guess what? You don't have a child, and instead it's your neighbor's child acting like a complete maniac. It's like, I'm sorry, but that's inappropriate. You have every right to have some semblance of quiet and peace in your home, especially at 5:45 in the morning? Like, seriously, it sounds like the mom needs to do a better job of parenting the kid. And maybe that's really mean and insensitive, but it sounds like this is happening to a lot of other people as well. So no, you are not the jerk for talking to your neighbor. You have every right to talk to them and explain what's going on. Because you can bet if you were making noise, you would want to have someone tell you instead of continuing to do it under the assumption that everything's fine. Also, if you're looking for some type of practical setup, I think it wouldn't be a bad idea, just for the sake of your job, to invest in a microphone that won't pick up these background noises. There are options available that you can invest in that really will dampen the sound and allow you to work without that stupid kid ruining your phone calls. So hopefully this message was delivered and your neighbor can do a better job of quieting down her kid. I just realized that my boyfriend and his wealthy father have been making fun of my dad's business, and I'm so heartbroken over what he said, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. So I've been in a relationship with my boyfriend for 1 year, and everything is going really well so far. My dad owns a building company and has 30 employees, including me. I work in sales and customer support, and he founded the company in 2005, and since then we've been growing from a 2-man plumbing service to 30 employees doing all sorts of renovations. My boyfriend's family, on the other hand, comes from generational wealth. His dad was CEO to his parents' company, which has about 1,000 employees. When he turned 40 years old, he sold the business and reinvested invested the money into private equity, as well as stocks and other things, and also bought another company that he is currently managing. My boyfriend is currently doing his master's in business administration and working part-time in his dad's company. When I met his parents, we got along really well. We had interesting conversations, and they also told my boyfriend that they liked me. However, last week after a couple of beers, I realized that they don't take what my dad and I do very seriously at all. I told them that we are currently developing new advertisement strategies. His dad then asked me why we even need to advertise toilets, as people go to the bathroom all the time. He then started laughing loudly after he said that. They also made fun of the new car wrapping designs we came up with for some of our cars, but it became pretty clear to me that they only see us as a petty plumbing facility. But here's the thing, we make $6 million in sales volume every single year. We're not huge, but guess what? We're also not a small company. Generally, I realize that they are completely detached from the struggles of normal people, talking about lazy employees and how everyone has no drive to work anymore. His dad grew up rich, so I just think it is a bit weird to talk like that in his position. Should I confront my boyfriend? When we were alone, he never gave me that impression, but I am pretty hurt by what the both of them did together, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, the way they acted is so unbelievably toxic. Seriously, you saw true colors come out that day, and now you know exactly how they feel about you and your dad's business. They think of it as a joke, and it's clearly below them in some kind of way. And I honestly can't stand people who act like this, by the way. People who grew up really rich and have no idea of what it's like to struggle on a daily basis. The kind of people who, just like the original poster described, are so detached from reality that they wouldn't know hard work if it was staring them in the face. And that's seriously unfortunate. I mean, this is your boyfriend we're talking about. This is someone I'm willing to assume you want to have some kind of future with even marriage being a possibility in the future. So finding out exactly how he and your father feels about your company is incredibly unfair and so hurtful. So if I was in your shoes, I would really make it a point to have some kind of conversation. And I wouldn't even bother bringing up his father, because there's honestly not much you can do about that. But in contrast, you absolutely can say something to your boyfriend. And I know if I was in your shoes, there's no way I would avoid that conversation. What he said was incredibly disrespectful. You and your father work incredibly hard on that business, and for him to just basically stomp all over it just because he grew up wealthy is so unacceptable. And this doesn't have to be some big confrontation or anything like that. It can literally just be a conversation. You could say something like, hey, this was really unfair and really hurtful, and this really broke my heart that you said that about me and my father, and then just see where it goes from there. Because I would really want to have this addressed and figured out well before I even tried to move forward with them in a relationship. So hopefully this all works out and he can see where you're coming from, because based on what you described, his behavior is absolutely disgusting, and he 100% needs to apologize to you for the things he said about your business. An entitled Karen goes into a rampage in the Target parking lot after I called her out for not putting her shopping cart away, and I've never seen a crazier person act more insane in my life. Here's what happened. So this happened a few months ago. I was coming out of Target mid-morning on a weekday. I noticed two adult women standing by the passenger side of their vehicle, which is a large SUV. The SUV was parked in the very first spot in the row, but the row was off to the side of the entrance. There were 2 spaces between their vehicle and mine. The cart return was 2 spaces over to the right of my vehicle, on the other side of my vehicle from the SUV. One of the women, the younger one, was putting a toddler in a car seat, with the older lady standing there talking to the younger one. And these are the entitled Karens of this story. As I'm walking up to my vehicle, I notice the older one push their cart to the middle of the parking spot next to her and then try to leave it. Now, I have to admit, not putting your cart away is a pet peeve of mine. It is one of these small, low-stakes things that I think will show someone's true character. Even still, I didn't say anything for a minute because I thought she might still put it away, but she still didn't, and it quickly became clear that they were about to leave as they were getting in the car and putting on their seatbelts. So I decided to play my part and say something to the Karen. I rolled my window down to get her attention, and I said to her, "Hi there, you forgot to put your cart away." And I said this in a friendly voice because I was trying to give her an out so she could be like, "Oh, I forgot," or something like that if she wanted. But that's not what she said at all, because what happened next honestly blew my mind. She said to me, "If it's so important to you, why don't you just do it yourself?" I said to her, "Okay, well, if you're not gonna do it, then I will." I then turned my car off and started getting out to do just that. So I get out and I get the cart, and that's when they called me a Karen. I said to them, "Sure, you leave your stuff out for other people to deal with, all because you can't be bothered, but yeah, I'm the Karen." As I say this, I'm pushing the cart out from between our cars to literally take it over to the cart corral thing on the other side of my vehicle. As I come out from between the vehicles, the employee collecting the carts comes by and takes it from me on his way to the corral. I turn and walk back, and at this point, all of a sudden, the older Karen starts screaming at me. "My husband got carjacked a month ago, you absolute jerk." Now, I gotta be honest here. It was kind of crazy how she went from just talking garbage to me to suddenly being red-faced and screaming like that in just an instant. So I told her that literally had nothing to do with returning a cart. Then they both started yelling that I don't have anything better to do than to hang out in parking lots and yell at people. And honestly, this made me laugh, because literally, weren't we all in a parking lot? As I'm laughing, I said to them, "Give me a break, I'm here shopping just like you were." At this point, I start walking back to get into my vehicle, and their last shot at me was to scream, "Why don't you go save a kitten since you're so great?" I then told them, well, I guess I'd have to, since we clearly know that you wouldn't be bothered. But as they were driving away, I got in one last remark. I said to them, "Sorry you got caught for being an awful person." They then flipped me off and drove away. And I've honestly never been more confused by an interaction with a Karen in my life. Yeah, those Karens seriously had some problems. Like, I am right there with the original poster. There's very little excuse that anyone couldn't put their cart away. Like, seriously, it is not that hard to do. Just take it and put it back. It doesn't take that much, and honestly, it really is low effort. But when it comes to calling out these Karens for not putting it back, you are way braver than I am. I would have just judged them silently instead of confronting them and saying, "Hey, you gotta put your cart back, right?" I am definitely not that brave, and there's no way I would be caught doing that. So honestly, good for you for having the guts to try and say something, because I know if I was in that situation, I definitely would have kept my mouth shut and just kept walking. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled Karen tries to pick a fight at the store I work at, all because she was not charged the proper amount for the laptop that she wanted. And I'm honestly so blown away by her entitlement. Here's what happened. So I work at a store that sells electronics and stationery, and as today was the start of the new flyer, I spent most of the day running around trying to make sure that the prices of our products reflected the changeover properly. And that's basically what I was doing throughout the course of what happened. And also, because it does come up later, I am a key holder. While I was scanning signs in another aisle, I heard a page through the headset radios that a woman needed help buying a laptop, which is where our tech guy comes into the story. Now, the first real indication that Karen was going to be a problem happened right after she told him that she was looking for a laptop and wasn't sure which one would suit her needs. And when he tried to guide her to a specific laptop that he had in mind and she refused, she said the following: "How about you start walking and I'll follow you? You do not get to tell me where I'm supposed to go." Eventually, he took her to a section of the store where we had Chromebook laptops on display. I wasn't paying that much attention to what was being said after that. That is, until she asked a very bizarre question. She said to the tech guy, "Okay, so this laptop is $250. Do you think I would be able to live off of $250 for the rest of the month?" Now, keep in mind, this is the 11th of October, so we're only just getting into the middle of the month. The tech guy said, I don't know. Then the entitled Karen fired back. She said, "Why not? How could you not know?" So the tech guy explained, "Well, because I don't know you well enough to make that kind of assumption." But the Karen keeps going on with her weird line of questioning. She says, "Well, I can tell just by looking at you that you would not be able to live off of $250 in a single month. So do you think that I would?" Now, at this point, the tech guy just refused to answer the question. And after a little bit more of back and forth, the subject changes finally. I just continue working, trying to mind my own business, but I still managed to catch something that kind of made me stop in my tracks. I'm not sure what the context of the comment was, and even after asking him, I still don't really get what was happening, but she said something about him being a slave or something like that, which really made me start listening again, but I don't know how it connected with what she said next. She then goes on this really weird tirade. She says, "So God made 4 seasons, but we split those seasons into 12. Do you know why? Just to hurt him. That's why." And then she started attacking a very specific religious group for literally no reason. Now, at this point, with this amount of crazy going on, to his credit, the tech guy just refused to engage or to even give an opinion on what she was saying. We did exchange a look between each other when the Karen wasn't looking, and I could tell just by that alone that he was trying so very hard to keep it together. He had only been working at the store for about 3 months now, and while we don't normally chat very often, I knew he was a very chill guy. After a few minutes of this, the entitled Karen, I guess, gave up because she just kind of sighed in a dismissive tone. The Karen then says, "So I think I've decided to get this laptop, so go ahead and get it for me. At this point, I kind of wanted to know what this woman's deal was. In particular, the part where she called him a slave for some reason. So when he went up to page for a manager, I piped up that I was available and took him to our lockup area to pick up the laptop that she wanted to buy. I then said to the tech guy, dude, what is up with that woman? Did she really just call you a slave? But the tech guy said, no, not really. But I don't think I actually understood anything of what she was saying. She just kept jumping topics. But I think I'm going to take the laptop to one of the cash registers and get one of the cashiers to cash her out. So as he was leaving the lockup area, I, deciding to be helpful, called the cashier over the radio to let her know exactly what was going on and that the laptop should be reaching her very shortly. But after a minute, she paged me back and said, I do not think that's happening. Now, when I went back to the floor to investigate, I saw him with his back to me and the lady grilling into him with a laptop in between the both of them. I guess she just didn't appreciate him telling her to go meet the cashier at the register. Figuring that this guy might need saving, I tried to page for another coworker to take over for him. And I was specifically looking for a manager, just so the tech guy could escape from the situation. And it's right about then that the store manager came over the speaker. Apparently, this entitled Karen had been here before in the store, though it must have been either when I was off shift or on break, because this was the first time I'd ever even heard of her before. The store manager says, don't bother. She's not all there, and she won't talk to anyone wearing a mask. Now, for full disclosure, ever since the 2020 virus, I've been masking up because even though most people don't view it as that big of an issue anymore, I refuse to take any chances. And there are also a few people who work with me who also agree with me. Unfortunately, the supervisor, who was also working in the electronics section, is of the same mindset, so neither he nor I could jump in to assist, at least not without making things a lot worse. But I guess she didn't like the way he was cashing her out, because the next time I saw her, about 5 minutes later, the store manager was cashing her out on another register, with the tech guy safely getting away from her. When I talked to him at this point, he was fairly convinced that the stuff she had been saying was just an attempt to try and rile him up, or to at least give her an excuse to kick off about whatever he would have said in response to her questions. But he didn't play her game in the slightest. He did end up asking me if there was some kind of rule that let us refuse service to specific customers, especially ones with Karen's disposition. But as we were chatting, the entitled Karen gets animated with our store manager, blatantly accusing them of improperly counting the bills. And then she found an issue with the price the cash register was showing for her purchase, saying something about it not being right, and this was in response to some theory that she had been talking to the store manager about. At one point, while the entitled Karen was rifling through her bag for something, the store manager kind of wandered over to where me and the tech guy were standing. The store manager then said, honestly, I'm ready to process a refund and tell her that she can't come back. I looked at the store manager and I said, hey, it's your call, but if you do, I'm behind you 100%. The store manager then said, she's saying that the registers are wrong and that we're not charging her enough for the laptop. Even after I pulled out a calculator and showed her the math, she says I'm too dependent on the computers to tell that she's right. I mean, you can't tell this woman that she's wrong. She just doesn't get it. After that, the store manager went back to the entitled Karen, who continued to have a problem with the price that she had paid. Finally, she held out a roll of coins that turned out to be nickels and a couple other coins before showing them one by one to the store manager, who says that we won't accept them through. The entitled Karen then leaves in a huff, telling us to give the coins to the Bank of Canada instead. The store manager then put them into a plastic bag and then sent a general message out to all the staff, instructing everyone to only refund what's on the receipt, and especially not what this entitled Karen was claiming she was owed. Now, apparently, this Karen also had a habit of buying from us and then returning the item sometime later within the return window. And after this was explained, the store manager went out for a smoke break. Now, I don't know if my store manager is planning to ban the Karen, and honestly, I hope that they do. If this isn't the first time she's pulled this stuff, then definitely it won't be the last. But from the way that they explained it to me later, they fully expect her to at least attempt to return the laptop. And honestly, I just hope that I'm not here for work when that eventually happens. Yeah, that lady was clearly looking for a fight. Like, she was just straight up talking about nonsense for like 90% of the time. It also really seemed like she was trying to bait out some kind of confrontation or something like that in some kind of way. And that, in my opinion, is super sketchy and really not okay. Like, why would you go to an electronics store and then try to pick a fight with like an hourly worker? These people do not get paid enough to deal with your level of crazy. So truly, for the sake of everybody in this story, hopefully this lady never comes back, because she sounds incredibly crazy, and honestly, I don't think I would ever want to deal with that. My entitled father has treated me awfully my entire life, and now that I'm finally out of his house and I've moved out on my own, I have honestly never been happier. younger. Here's what happened. I'm 20 years old, and I've only ever had my father as a solid parental figure in my life, or as solid as you could possibly get it throughout my childhood. My dad and my mother, who I've never met before, separated when I was too young to remember her, and apparently officially divorced in 2012. She has had zero contact with me, and my dad has not told me anything about her at all. Even if I asked when I was younger, my dad, along with the help of my paternal grandparents, raised me entirely. Throughout my entire life, he was always up and down. When I was a young child, he didn't treat me poorly from what I can remember, but he left to work abroad for over a year without me, and also uprooted my whole life several times because of anything that was happening for him personally. It ranged from moving me from my hometown so that we could live with his girlfriend who I'd never met before, all the way to fully moving me from one country to another, no matter how much I protested and cried, all because he knew what was best for me, while also stating that he was getting a promotion. And this went on for years. Many women entered and left my life, and I've lived in many apartments, none of which I've ever gotten used to enough to even call my home. Back then, it felt like a regular thing, but looking back now, it caused me so much stress and emotional imbalance from how turbulent it was. In the last couple of years, he expanded his poor treatment of me into other areas of our lives. Him getting mad at me for missing several phone calls turned into him insulting me and calling me names over not responding to his messages immediately. It also went from him being rarely frustrated straight into him always being angry about the smallest mistakes or actions that I would make. If I folded a towel wrong, he would then be angry at me for 15 minutes. If I didn't wash the dishes, I would then be hit with a series of insults towards me and my character. Also, if I was 15 minutes late coming home, it meant that I would have to deal with a silent treatment for hours. And even in the meantime, he would love bomb me when he could, manipulating me into thinking his bad side wasn't actually that bad because he was otherwise a good parent. And I'm honestly embarrassed to say that it really worked. Jump to present day, and I'm currently sitting on the floor at my girlfriend's house, overthinking my plan for tomorrow. Me, my girlfriend, and her sister will be going to my house, packing up a suitcase or two of things that I cannot part with, and I'm going to be moving in with her, parting ways with my dad for good. That has been the idea since about 2 days ago, and it solidified about an hour ago. He spam called me, and when I didn't pick up, he called me a useless, embarrassing creature, amongst other equally hurtful things. For context, the reason he got angry and called me was because I didn't respond to his message. It's time his actions got consequences, and his arrogant self is about to lose the only child he's ever had. Fast forward a couple of months, and things are difficult to say the least. I am a million times better off in this house where everyone accepts me for who I am as a person, including my ADHD and autism, and where I can set my own boundaries. I would be lying though if I said I don't miss anything about my life before moving. Here are some of the things that have been especially difficult for me to try and adapt to. For starters, I have financially dropped many classes for a lack of a better word. My father was well off because of his work, and he didn't give me much of his wealth as he expected me to earn my own money. But I was living a comfortable life where making certain payments, buying food, or treating myself was never a matter of worry. Now that I live away and without his financial help, in a household of 6 other people where I need to contribute my own money, I find myself counting pennies. Don't get me wrong, I expected this and how hard it was going to be, but I have the right to struggle with accepting and adapting to it. Secondly, this house is very loud and I never have any alone time. As someone who's autistic and has ADHD, having quiet time and some alone time with my own thoughts or to simply rest is really important, especially when processing heavy issues in my life, especially considering the entire endeavor that I've endured. Although my old house had 4 people in it, namely myself, my father, his wife, and her daughter, almost no one in that house was ever home due to work or a social life. But in this house of 6 people, somebody is always at home. In the last 2 months, there have only been 2 instances in which I've been left in the house by myself, and it was only for a few hours. Now, I have no issue with this, truly, and I most often appreciate the company. The only issue arises when I'm feeling mentally poor and I'm having a bad day and I just need the silence and emptiness to try and process things. But because of the noise and all the people, I can't do that. Even then, I obviously don't bring it up as it really is just a personal thing, but if I feel I really need the space, I just take a long walk outside. Also, my girlfriend's little brother is kind of a problem. I love him dearly, he is a sweetheart, but he's heavily on the autistic spectrum, much more than I have to deal with. He's nonverbal, he has no boundaries, and always causes a lot of ruckus around the house, either with his phone or just by being super hyper. Again, 99% of the time, I have no issue with him at all. He's kind and often gentle, and he's actually improving on on his communication skills quite quickly, and this has really been a recent development. He's just difficult to deal with sometimes if everyone in the house is stressed out, or even if they're tired, or when he's just being way too loud and causing too much noise. He has a lot of sensory needs and needs a lot of special treatment, as well as a very specific schedule to function and avoid any kind of meltdowns. It's not that big of a disruption to my life at all. It's just a factor to adapt to a little suddenly that I'm kind of struggling with. Also, when it comes to leaving my job and relying on people, as I mentioned before, having autism and ADHD makes this whole change very difficult. And unfortunately, I did have to quit my decently paying job for the sake of my mental health. I was only working part-time, but the line of work which I was in is extremely emotionally and mentally exhausting, and it's really time-consuming. Plus, it was making the transition of my life absolutely more difficult to cope with, so I decided to leave. This means that even though I've had the luck to save up some money to buy food and other essentials for myself as need be, I've had to rely on either my girlfriend or my two best friends quite a bit. Being someone who through their entire life has helped other people financially because I've been stable, I have found it really hard to ask for help when I need it, not even to mention accepting it when it's been given to me. It comes with a lot of guilt and a feeling as though I've become a burden to the household, even though while I was working, I was contributing about 1/3 of my paycheck to rent, bills, food, and basically whatever we needed. I'm currently looking for work semi-actively right now, but I've been encouraged so far by the people close in my life to take it easy and take as much time off as I need, just so I can get my footing so that I don't end up burning out. Also, as I mentioned before, I dropped out of university. One of the biggest issues I had at home was that I was forced to continue my academics after high school. Now, I have always believed that university is good if you have a path you wish to follow and you are very sure about it. But for those of us who don't really know what they want to do with their life, university just became a stress factor where you aren't fighting for your own education, but rather for the satisfaction of someone else. Whether you're pleasing your parents, which is something I tried to do, or if you're pleasing society or just someone else in general. It's one of those things that will eventually burn you out and make you lose sense of what you actually wish to do. And one of the first things I did when I left was to drop out of university. I am happy I'm no longer forced to learn things I hate and adapt to a pressuring routine on top of trying to work for a living. But hearing all my friends go to university and some of the judgment from them has honestly made me doubt my choice. The transition itself from suddenly not having anything to learn has been a very difficult thing to start adjusting to. But also, finally, I really do miss my dad. And no, I don't mean the entitled piece of garbage that I ran away from, who absolutely treated me awfully for years and destroyed my self-esteem, my dreams, and my sense of self. I miss the man who, when I was little, would bring me back gifts after every long-distance work trip and hug me for hours because I missed him. I miss the man who would take me to my favorite restaurant just so I could have my favorite meal, especially if I came back from school upset. I miss the person who would then let me stay up a little later watching my comfort movie with him. I miss the man who took on several holiday trips when he could and let me explore the world as much as I could, even while I was very young. Someone who would tell me that they were proud of me when I won an art competition or something like that, or if I got a good result on a test of some kind. I miss the man who would make funny faces every time I filmed him for anything because he knew that I found it funny. I just miss my dad, and it's hurting and difficult to forget that the reason I left was because that man no longer existed, and he hadn't existed for a very long time. Now, with all of that being said though, I'm happy that I left when I did. My life was getting to a point where my entire existence was controlled by my dad and his moods. How my day ended depended on when I got home, as well as if he would say welcome back or where in the heck have you been. It would honestly be one or the other. I couldn't dress and be myself because he always had an issue with me being LGBTQ. He would never call me by my preferred name just to demean my existence. His treatment of me depended a lot on my grades in school and in university, and not my personality, my treatment of other people, my way of expression, as well as other things that he really should have been paying attention to. Every little mistake I made was being blown out of proportion. I was simply unhappy. I was very clearly being mistreated, but here I am myself. I'm treated right. I'm greeted with a smile and a hug when I am home. I'm asked about my day and what I'm doing. No one cares that I am no longer in university, and I always get asked if my recent hobby project went well and if I was happy with it. People here are proud of me. They respect me and my boundaries. And honestly, I find myself in a much better place after finally leaving my dad. Wow, what a story. Seriously, it sounds like you've been through a lot of stuff in your life. You had a dad who treated you awful all of a sudden, and it seems like he changed overnight. perfect. This loving and caring father kind of turned into a monster, and that's not fair at all. Hopefully all this works out for you and you're able to find some kind of stability in your life, because based on what you described, it really seems like you're happier in the house you live in. And hopefully things flourish for you and you're able to find some kind of peace. An entitled drunk jerk becomes physically aggressive and absolutely belligerent after he and his party don't get their meals for free, all because they had to wait a while for their food to come out. Things escalate from there, where this guy starts destroying things in the restaurant in a fit of drunken rage, eventually leading to the cops getting called and this entitled jerk getting arrested. And I've honestly never seen anything so crazy in my life. Here's what happened. So to start things off with a bit of a backstory, I work at a steakhouse in a busy downtown area. It is the kind of place that hosts a lot of business parties and rehearsal dinners, or even just large celebrations. We have fine wines, and it's usually about $100 per person on average. We also have Wagyu steaks, so I think you get the idea. Now, thankfully, the table and the incident that happened wasn't mine, but I was there and working the night that this occurred, so I figured that this story deserves to be told. There was a large birthday party scheduled for one of our private rooms. Originally, it was contracted for 15 people with a $1,500 minimum, but only 7 people showed up on time. And even though our policy requires half the party to be on time, we made an exception and even lowered the minimum to $1,300 when 2 people couldn't show up. So, around 45 minutes after their contracted start time, 13 people had arrived for the evening. A few showed up pre-drunk, since our restaurant is close to a lot of walk-in bars, but so far nobody was belligerent. Well, or so we thought. From the beginning, the servers, management, even the support staff all knew that this party was going to be problematic. All separate drink bills, trying to order off the menu, and being generally drunk with an attitude. I mean, their contract only allowed a few pre-selected options, but they should have known, considering somebody had to sign the paperwork when planning this out. They were antagonistic with their servers and with each other. Eventually, they got settled and ordered their food, and things seemed to calm down for a little bit. Other than being a handful and already drunk, they got through their salad course with no problem. The kitchen took about 40 minutes to complete their entrees, which is normal for a large party like this, but people were starting to get angry because they were so hungry. Someone tried to go into the kitchen themselves to figure out what was going on and nearly slipped and fell on the kitchen tiles before they were removed from the back. I think somebody else might have also puked in the bathroom, but that could have been another guest or just a rumor. But honestly, once the entrees came out, everything started to go downhill very quickly. These people couldn't remember what they ordered, they were upset that their steaks were the incorrect temperature, and some were demanding they be packed up to go, all because we had taken too long. Now, as a side note, the steaks were correct by restaurant standards, and the kitchen confirmed that the steaks were at the right temperature. Now, keep in mind, even though they started 45 minutes late, their contract was for 3 hours. They had another 45 minutes after the entrees at least. Their servers did the best they could, but 2 people can only satisfy 13 individual demands so quickly, and they split another couple tables that also needed help. Once their anger escalated, our front of house manager went to talk with them, just to try and smooth things over, and try and assist with the service in general. But the organizer absolutely blew up at her. The front of house manager is a small woman, maybe about 5'6" in general, and being screamed at by a very large, very drunk grown man who was getting in her face with very aggressive body language, honestly could probably shake up just about anybody. The front of house manager normally takes absolutely no garbage from anybody and will not hesitate to remove a very problematic guest, but most of the party was still there, and he was particularly very physically imposing. So I respect her courage for staying in that situation and preventing things from getting physical. However, the drunk jerk had no intention of de-escalating. When the front of house manager refused to comp the bill, stating that she'd be happy to recook incorrect entrees and pack up any leftover food if they promised to wait outside the restaurant, this entitled drunk jerk very quickly turned around and pulled the tablecloth off the table like some awful magic trick. Now here's the thing, almost all the dishes and many of the entrees and the sides were all still on the table. Glasses and place settings still on the table as well. I mean, one of the tables fell over and tore the carpet, as well as getting stained by cocktails and wines. The crash that we heard was so loud and it seriously scared me, and it was right about here that the front of house called the police. Now thankfully, because we are in a busy entertainment district, we have a dedicated police department literally next door. They were here in less than 2 minutes to handcuff the guy and escort everybody out of the restaurant. This entitled jerk was charged with felony vandalism, public intoxication, and assault. When he signed the contract, he put a credit card on file, so he was charged the full amount before any comps and later billed for the damages. I was in shock that somebody could behave like this, and never in my professional job or in my real life have I ever heard of somebody going this crazy and becoming this unhinged. Now, for the servers taking care of the table, it was very traumatizing and a harrowing experience for them. But honestly, at least we all can laugh about it in hindsight. I don't think anybody working there had ever seen something so crazy, and I would not have believed it myself had I not seen the damage firsthand. Wow, that is seriously a scary situation. First of all, these people were completely out of line. They clearly pre-gamed this entire situation and decided, yeah, let's get drunk before we get drunk. That's a good idea. And for the type of restaurant that this place clearly seems to be, it really seems like this is a fancy sit-down restaurant where you have to literally sign a contract just to show up. Like, this is serious business. They need to show up on time and show some respect. Like, the way they were acting before even showing up to the restaurant and just getting drunk ahead of time and completely wasted, that was so inappropriate, and there was no reason to do that. And I'm willing to bet that they probably knew the kind of people they were when they were under the influence. Like, I'm really not convinced that this is an isolated incident or anything like that, because from the sounds of it, these people kind of suck. And it's so unfortunate that the servers and everyone at this restaurant had to deal with their childish behavior. So honestly, good for the front of house manager for calling the police and putting this guy in his place. According to the original poster, with all things considered, especially with the bill and the damages, this guy paid a little over $2,300, including the bill for the night and all of the damages. And hopefully, after having this awful experience, you never have to deal with anybody like that ever again. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled neighbor leaves a note on my car every single week, complaining because I'm parking my car in front of their house, despite the fact that I have every right to do so. And I'm simply so annoyed because I get a note from them every single week. Here's what happened. So I live in an apartment building with no parking, so I have no choice but to park on the street. My street also has a school on it that prohibits parking on its side from Monday through Friday all the way until 6 p.m. The other side of the street has 2-hour parking even for permit holders, so in total there's about 7 spots on my block where permit holders can leave their cars. And also the entire area is permit parking only, which I thankfully have. Now, because of this, I can never get a spot on my block, and I have to park 1 block down, which is still in the same permit zone. This area is all houses, and each one has a driveway. I typically don't use my car every day, but never go without it for long stretches until I'm traveling. It's also a parking violation here to leave your car in one spot for longer than 72 hours, which apparently some people take very seriously. Recently, one of my neighbors has been leaving a note on my car every single week. This is not an exaggeration too, by the way. I've gotten 4 notes in the last 4 weeks citing the above parking code, even if my car has only been there for less than 2 days. The note always says that I can't leave my car in one spot for multiple days, even though technically I have 72 hours. I always ignore the note because even if I do get reported, which I'm sure I have been at this point, someone from the city comes out the next day for an inspection and then monitors the vehicle for the next 72 hours to see if it's still there. This law is really to prevent abandoned vehicles, not for people getting upset about cars parked in front of their houses for multiple days. The hilarious part about this is that the note goes on to say how disrespectful it is to your neighbors just to leave your cars parked in front of their houses. But then again, constantly leaving notes on cars is totally respectful, right? I mean, this has been going on for months, but this was the first time I got 4 notes in a row. And right now I'm going for the high score. I know it's a law, and I rarely leave my car parked in one spot for longer than 3 days, never more than a week unless I'm traveling, in which case I just leave it at the office to avoid street sweeping. Also, my car isn't old, dirty, or looks abandoned. This entitled neighbor in question just simply has nothing better to do with their life. Yeah, that's really unfortunate. You can tell that they're just a busybody, and they clearly want to get up in other people's business. They're acting as if you abandoned your car, even though you're not doing that, and you have every right to sit it there for what, 3 days at least? They just don't like the fact that anyone's parking in front of their house. They probably have this weird entitlement about who parks in front of their house, and they probably think they own that spot in front of it. But newsflash, entitled neighbor, you don't own anything on the street. The original poster has every right to park there, and hopefully one of these days you catch him in the act act, and you're able to give them a piece of your mind. Today, I messed up by accusing my boyfriend of cheating when he goes out to California next week. But once I found out he was actually visiting a fallen soldier he used to know, I'm now completely heartbroken and I seriously don't know what to do. So I've been dating my boyfriend for a little under a year now. We moved in together into a small house near his hometown, and recently he told me of a yearly tradition that he does. He goes to California on the same date every year for a few days. I asked what for, and he suddenly changed the subject by inviting me, but I had work that week, so I declined. I knew he was a former Marine and was stationed over there, so I just assumed it was to visit some old Marine buddies or just for the nostalgia or something like that. The problem came into play when a few days later he was cooking and had his phone on the charger in the other room that I was in. I saw he got a text from a name that I didn't know. It was locked behind the screen, and I'm a little ashamed to admit this, but I figured out his password a while ago without him knowing. It wasn't a sinister plot or anything like that. He's just very predictable. Now, before you call me a jerk for snooping around on his phone, I've had bad relationships before where I thought I trusted a man with all my heart only to then be cheated on. So my worries got the best of me and I started snooping. The text message told my boyfriend to bring cases of a beer that was a preferred brand of a woman that I'd never heard of. This immediately set off alarm bells in my head. Why would he be bringing a girl's favorite beer on a vacation that he refuses to tell me about? I closed his phone and pretended that I didn't see it. I went to some work friends for advice and all three of them convinced me it was a romantic getaway and he was blatantly cheating on me. After that, my anxiety flares up and I was a complete mess. I thought he was the one, while also thinking, how could he do this to me? So I went home early, deciding to have this big dramatic confrontation. I wanted to yell and scream at him, but I had read a lot of these stories online before, so I felt I had a plan to ease into it and catch him in a corner. I came home and he was in the backyard fixing a fallen fence post. I asked him to come inside and he told me he would be there in a second. I then told him in a stern voice to come right now. I heard him drop the wood plank and start running inside. He must have assumed I was hurt or something like that because he got inside and asked me what was wrong. And the following conversation went something like this. I looked at him and I said, I know you're cheating on me. He just looked at me dumbfounded and started to chuckle a bit, assuming it was a joke of some kind. I then started crying and just breaking down, and it was then that he realized I was serious. So he then came over trying to comfort me, but I swatted him away. He looked genuinely hurt and just backed up a bit. He then asked me, what gave you the idea that I'm cheating on you? I then said to him, look, I know about the girl that you're getting beer for. You're going to go see her next week, aren't you? He then said that yes, he is seeing her next week, which completely broke me. He just admitted to it. So when he said that, I started crying even harder. He then reached into his wallet, pulled out a picture and showed it to me. He said, that's the person I'm seeing next week. And then he said the name that I thought belonged to a woman, but instead it actually belonged to a man. I was completely wrong. The picture was of my boyfriend and another man, both in uniform and armor, one arm wrapped around each other's shoulder, and both their other hands were holding a rifle. I knew this picture. I saw it in a memorial post from a friend of my boyfriend. He passed away while they were in the military together. I realized what I did, and all I could do was sob even more. We were both on the kitchen floor, and I'm sobbing my eyes out, and he's trying his best to hold me together while explaining that he goes back to the base every year to clean a memorial cross and drop a 6-pack of beer for his friend. And all the while, I'm just apologizing in between sobs. It's been 2 days, and I can tell it affected him, but he simply won't admit it. He is a very stoic guy and doesn't speak about his emotions, and has always prioritized other people over himself. He insists that he's fine and he's sorry he wasn't more clear about his trip, but I know my boyfriend. If he was really okay, he'd be cracking jokes and being a witty jerk by now, but he's not doing any of that. I've tried talking about it with him, but he always finds ways to shut me down or shift the conversation politely. I desperately want to fix this because I feel awful. I have some vacation days saved up, so I could take them on short notice and go with him to show my support, but I'm afraid he would take that as a lack of trust. I don't want to lose the man I love just because I jump to conclusions. He knows about my past and understands my feelings. He's always tried to accommodate me, and I think this was the first time that he didn't tell me exactly where and why he was going when I asked him. Just like I understand his feelings. I mean, I don't surprise him. I let him know when I come home. I comfort him when he wakes up from his nighttime terrors. We both have things in our past that the both of us have tried to help each other work through, but I don't want to sound like I'm trying to justify my lack of trust. He gave me everything, and I couldn't even give him my trust in this one moment. Yeah, that's a massive mess up. Seriously, talk about missing all the clues that no, he is not cheating. First of all, if he was really cheating on you, why on earth would he invite you to come along? He literally said, hey, come with me to California. It's gonna be fun. Do you really think he would invite you on this trip if he was actively cheating on you with someone he was going to see? You would then potentially see this person as well. Instead of asking him about the person's name who you snooped around and saw, you decided, ooh, I'm gonna catch you in a corner. Like, that was unbelievably toxic, and there was no reason for that. And sure, I get it, you were cheated on previously, but for you to jump to a conclusion like this and try and pin this on your boyfriend when he definitely didn't do anything, not to mention all the other accommodations that he actively makes to make you feel comfortable, really does make you a massive jerk in this situation. And sure, you thought the name belonged to a woman, and it might be one of those ambiguous names that can be used for a man or a woman, but honestly, the way you went about doing this was incredibly awful. The first thing you said when he came into the house was, oh, I know you're cheating. You didn't ask him what he was doing in California. You didn't try and get more information about what was happening. You just jumped right into accusing him, all because of an awful situation that you made up in your head. Also, you really should ditch your friends. Your friends almost ruin your relationship. They literally convince you, oh man, he's definitely cheating. And instead of talking to, your boyfriend about it, you believed your idiotic friends who clearly don't know what they're talking about. And so here you are on the kitchen floor crying about this, and he's the one that has to comfort you, despite the fact that you probably really hurt his feelings. I mean, with the way you acted and the accusation you so willingly placed upon him, I don't blame your boyfriend for trying to change the subject. Like, you can't be the person who makes the accusation and then play the victim when you get called out and proven wrong. So yes, I think this was a massive mess up on your part, and hopefully you never do anything like this again, because your boyfriend does not deserve this. And if you had just asked him honestly about what happened, this literally all could have been avoided. Am I the jerk for blowing up at my boyfriend after he finished off an entire tub of sour cream in one day? Here's what happened. So first off, I want to say that I feel absolutely ridiculous posting this here, but I am literally crying about this, and I'm wondering if I'm crazy overreacting. As with everyone in the United States, grocery prices in my area are astronomical, and I've had to completely change the way I budget for food. I have to be aware of every penny I spend in order to get the most of my money when it comes to the food. Every week I have a grocery budget. I plan out all my meals, as well as what I get for the week and what we have. I do not do extra grocery runs during the week unless it's absolutely necessary, and this will be important later on. My boyfriend pays for about 30% of the groceries, and I pay about 70% because he pays more for utilities, so it kind of evens out in the end. However, I always tell him if he wants additional food or anything like that, or maybe he's still hungry or something along those lines, then he himself can go and get it for himself. Also, keep in mind we are not portion restricted. Well, I bought a standard size tub of sour cream, and it was supposed to be used in 3 different meals that week, and I told him this ahead of time. Well, I came home today ready to make dinner, and it was gone. Not even used for one of the meals that I had planned. He just snacked on it throughout the day, and admittedly, I blew up and started crying, asking him why he would do that when he knows that I was supposed to use it for several meals. I try so hard to budget and save money, and I feel like he just doesn't care in the slightest. I told him he can either buy a new tub of sour cream, or I'm not cooking for the rest of the week. I told him it's a matter of respect, but he thinks it's no big deal, and I could just go get a new tub if I really want it. And he is now making a point of saying I should be the one to get it instead of him, despite the fact that he's the one that ate it all. He says I'm being dramatic for crying over sour cream, and I know it's not super expensive. It's like, what, $3 in my area? But honestly, it's about the principle of the matter. I'm just so upset that he can't respect what I'm trying to do. And honestly, this is not about the sour cream. It's simply about being disrespected. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Your boyfriend is being a massive jerk right now. There is no reason for him to talk to you like that in the slightest. First and foremost, in my opinion, this absolutely falls on him. He should be the one to get up off of his butt and go to the store and replace the sour cream that he ate in one day. Like, this guy seriously just plowed through the entire tub of sour cream. Like, why would he do that? He knows you're very particular about your grocery shopping. He has to know at this point that you have a grocery budget, that you plan out your entire week very meticulously so that you can properly budget what you are and are not going to eat throughout the week. So for him to just take away one of your key ingredients like that, that seriously can mess up the entire week for you. And no, I don't think you're being overdramatic problematic at all. You're already stressed out of your mind trying to pinch every penny that you have, and then he comes along and completely disrespects that process. Like, you spent so much time planning this out and really trying to understand what you want to eat for the week. You had a solid game plan going, and then your boyfriend comes in and just ruins the entire thing. And then when he's confronted about it, he acts like it's your fault and it's something that you should take care of. And that is honestly mind-blowing to me. So no, you are not the jerk in this situation. Your boyfriend is being irrational and so immature. If he really cared, he would go and get the $3 tub of sour cream and just replace it like an adult. But instead, he's acting like a child. And that, in my opinion, is so unfortunate. An entitled Karen and her teenage daughter try to steal my purse at an estate sale, claiming that this item is actually up for sale and that they deserve it since they grabbed it first. And I'm honestly so blown away by how ambitious they were in trying to rob me. Here's what happened. So for starters, I like going to estate sales when I have some free time. I'm at an estate sale that had other people also shopping, but it wasn't particularly crowded. So a girl about 15 or 16 years old was following me around the various rooms pretty closely, which was a bit weird because the house wasn't that crowded. If I stopped to look at something or pick something up, as soon as I moved a little bit, she would look at or pick up the same item. It was a little bit odd, but nothing too strange. So I stopped to pick up a vintage purse, but my own purse kept slipping off my shoulder because the shirt I was wearing had a slick texture. So I took my purse off of my shoulder and I set it down directly in front of me on a chest of drawers. The girl reaches in front of me so close that she knocked into my arm and grabs it. I immediately grabbed the strap, but she didn't let go. We then engaged in a slight tug of war because, hello, I'm not about to let my purse get stolen. The girl's mother, who had also been shopping around, but not staying particularly close to either of us, begins loudly stating that her daughter picked up the purse first and it was under the rules of the estate sales, meaning that her daughter gets first dibs on it and for me to let it go. I tell her that it's my personal purse, not an item for sale, and I refuse to let go. The woman just keeps repeating the rules of the estate sale, like they are somehow making a royal proclamation louder and louder. Eventually, she angrily is yelling over me. The girl and I are still engaged in a tug of war because I'm not letting my purse get stolen. The mom gets loud enough that two employees of the estate sale company come in to see what the ruckus is about. Mom keeps giving her royal proclamation that her daughter picked up the purse first and that I'm trying to steal the purse from her. One of the employees starts to politely tell me the etiquette of the estate sales. I listen, and then, just as politely, I tell her that this purse isn't for sale. It's my personal purse, filled with my personal items, that I walked into this place with, and I refuse to let the girl steal it from me. The employee asks for both of us to release the purse so that she can pick it up. She then gets my permission to open it, takes out my wallet, and looks at my driver's license. She tells the mom that purse is mine, it's not for sale, and that you need to give it back to me. The mother lets out a really loud sigh. She then grabs her daughter by the arm and then leaves. No apology or acknowledgement that either she or her daughter were in the wrong. In retrospect, I wonder if the daughter may have had a mental disability, but even if she did, it wasn't obvious from my limited interactions with her. I just couldn't believe the mom was so entitled that she didn't even bother to get the facts straight or even try to investigate after I told her that the purse absolutely was mine. Wow, what is wrong with people? They really came up and was like, yep, this purse is mine. This stupid brat absolutely saw you put that purse down that was on your shoulder, and then she decided to reach for it and be like, oh man, I got it, this is mine. Like, it kind of makes me believe that this is probably their scam. They go to these types of things, and the second someone puts something down, they then try to fight the person over the purse. Why else would this teenager be following you all around this house, basically tailing you at every turn? She was probably planning on robbing you from the very beginning. Like, her behavior really does point in that direction. And also, what kind of mother would defend their child taking somebody's purse? If I had a kid who was fighting a grown adult over their purse, I would tell them, wait a second, stop doing that. What's wrong with you? I wouldn't be like, ooh, you gotta hand that over. Give us the purse. That comes off as super sketchy, and that is not something I would deal with in the slightest. So good for you for standing your ground. There's no way if I was in your situation, I would willfully hand over that purse to those people, because clearly they had ulterior motives. And I'm willing to bet that if you did let go of your purse, they probably would have taken it and then run off to their car before you can even try and stop them. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. This next story comes from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for not having respect for my mother, even though she demands that I give it to her, despite never giving me any in the first place. Here's what happened. So for a little bit of background, I was diagnosed with a mild form of autism at a very young age, and have been diagnosed with many other things over the years, and I've never been quite understood in the way I act or talk. That being said, about a year before my 18th birthday, I was released from juvie on a misdemeanor charge, which was eventually dropped, and a few months after that, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which was the cause of the outburst that landed me in several hospitals throughout my state, and then eventually into the juvie system. Due to not being diagnosed before my major outburst, I was not on any medicine for it, nor was I really aware of what was wrong with me, besides a severe form of depression that had lingered for about 7 years prior, nor had I taken any proper therapy, as there wasn't, as far as I knew, anything to treat. After being diagnosed with what I hope is my final problem, I've since used the last year to attend therapy, take proper medication, and have also graduated high school and gotten a job to save for college, all while paying my mother an absurd amount of rent compared to what she paid for an actual apartment not too long ago. Since I have been released from corrections, despite actively making efforts to better myself and be a good citizen, I am still treated as a hardened criminal by my mother, who claims to always put me and my brother above everything else, even though she hasn't even as much texted my brother, who we will call John, that's not his real name, in the last 3 years. To top it all off in the grandest of ways, my mother demands respect that I tell her she does not give me. Therefore, I feel I do not owe her anything. I will always love and respect my mom for raising me and taking the steps she needed to when I was younger. But am I the jerk for losing that respect with the way she treats me? What should I do? I don't think you're totally the jerk here. I really do think there's a lot of nuance to what's going on, and obviously there's a lot of things that we as the audience can't possibly know. So no, in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. I think there's a lot going on here, and I don't blame you for the way that you feel. A crazy entitled Karen tries to force me to babysit her kids, despite the fact that I've never met this woman in her life, and her kids looked incredibly scared. And I'm honestly still blown away by this experience. Here's what happened. So to start things out, I was reading another post online that reminded me of something that happened to me before that was pretty similar. And as the title suggests, some random lady tried to get me to babysit her kids. And I guess the lady assumed that because I was a mom, I owed her to watch the kids for her. So anyways, for a bit of context, this happened to me many years ago when my daughters were just babies. I was on a leisurely stroll around my apartment complex. My baby was in the stroller and my toddler was walking around with me. We looked at grass, rocks, butterflies, and all this other stuff as we walked around. It was really nice. But suddenly, out of nowhere, a woman backs her car up to me and jumps out pointing at me. She starts to scream, You babysit for me, okay? Now when she said this, I was really stunned, and I didn't even know what to say. She didn't even give me time to answer her, and she moved incredibly quickly as she opened up her back doors and her trunk. She was grabbing out little zipper lunch coolers, as well as blankets and I think a few toys. Her young kids were also getting out of the car looking really scared. This all looked incredibly sketchy. And then this lady said, You babysit my kids and I will pay you. But I looked at her and I said, No, I don't know you, and you definitely don't know me. Also, your kids don't know me. But she still insisted. She said to me, But I made their lunches, and then tried to hand me the lunch coolers. She said, Look, I'll just pay you, okay? And when she said this and tried to do this, I was blown away. So I insisted, No, I'm not gonna watch your kids for you. I don't even know you. But she obviously was not listening. She said to me, Okay, well then just babysit them for today then. I'll pay you. But then it made me think, how long did this stranger actually expect me to watch her kids? I said no to her again, and then eventually I just walked away. And as I was walking away, she was still yelling out to me, trying to get me to babysit her kids, while I rushed away best I could with my kids in my arms. And the worst part about it is that I had never seen this woman before in my life around my apartment complex. And even to this day, I'm still blown away by the way this lady acted, and I seriously can't believe that she tried to get me to babysit her kids. That is insane. Like quite literally, this lady stopped on the side of the road, pointed at the first person they saw, and said, Here you go ahead and watch them for me. Here's their lunches, snacks, and some toys. Don't worry, I'm gonna pay you. Have fun. Like, what was she gonna do if you did decide to watch those kids? Speed off into the distance? Because based on the way she was acting, it kind of seems like she was gonna ditch her kids and run off into the distance. Like, this lady literally did not know you. She didn't know you from anywhere, and she's literally rolling up towards you, trying to demand that you watch her kids. That, in my opinion, is super sketchy, and it's probably the best move you could have made by walking away and trying to get away from her, because that lady was clearly crazy, and I don't see anything good coming from that interaction. Am I the jerk for confronting my best friend's fiance about not involving me in wedding preparations? Here's what happened. So I've been best friends with my friend Aiden since high school. I'm a 30-year-old female and Aiden is 30 years old. Aiden is also not his real name. When I say friends, I mean it. I contemplated him as a dating prospect for a bit in college, but figured it wouldn't go anywhere, so I never pursued it. I can't say if he ever had the same feelings. I mean, we honestly never discussed it. Aiden's been dating Jessica for about 3 years, and Jessica is also not her real name. I am happy for them, but I must admit, Jessica and I never truly warmed up to each other. She wasn't a girl I pictured Aiden to end up with. She comes from a wealthy family and is always put together. Aiden is middle class and very outdoorsy. I do feel at times Aiden prioritized their relationship over his other friendships, but I can understand why at times. However, things have started to change a bit for the worse. Aiden and I would always discuss how we wanted to be involved in each other's weddings, and this included the planning process. Aiden is going to have me be a groomwoman, which I'm assuming Jessica is fine with. I mean, we've been chatting about bachelor parties and he's come up with what I consider to be a strict list, and I'm assuming that it's Jessica's doing. What has really been bothering me is that Jessica isn't letting me be involved in wedding dress shopping. I asked Aiden to suggest me being involved since I'm someone who knows him best. I want her to look fantastic for him that day, and I know that Aiden would prefer some styles over others. Jessica reached out to me, and while she appreciated my offer to come along, she said that she was keeping it small and really only wanted her mom, her grandmother, and her maid of honor there with her. I texted her that I understand that, but I felt that I was important enough to be there as well because I can give her an idea of what Aiden would want. She responded to me that she and Aiden had discussed things ahead of time, and while he has preferences, he also said that she would look great in anything. This was one of the biggest choices for her to make. I called her selfish and said that it seems to me that the only one making choices in the relationship was her, and that she didn't seem to care about Aiden's feelings at all. She didn't respond to me after that, but I got a call from Aiden asking me what in the world had gotten into me. I told him what happened, and he told me that what I did was unacceptable, and he needed a few days to cool down and process things. He told me to not call or text him at all, and be prepared that I may be uninvited from the wedding because that is his first instinct. I'm devastated, and I'm not sure what's gonna happen. My friends, who are also Aiden's friends, think that I wasn't out of line, but other people think that I do. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? I'm gonna be completely honest here, but wow, yes, you are absolutely out of line here, and you are really being a massive jerk. You are overstepping your boundaries and getting in the way of their marriage. You do realize that Aiden is getting married to Jessica, right? He's not getting married to you or anybody else. So the fact that you would be like, wait a second, I want to be there for dress shopping, and then you go ahead and call the bride selfish when she's like, no, I don't know you and I don't want you there. That, in my opinion, is awful. Seriously, what in the world were you thinking? If I was Aiden in this situation, I would be mortified that my best friend is acting that way. Like, sure, you may have known him longer, and you might have a good idea of what he would and wouldn't like, but he is not marrying you. He's marrying Jessica, and it's her decision what she wants to wear on her wedding day. Like, why on earth would you try to be involved in that and try and boss her around as if she doesn't talk to Aiden almost every single day? Like, this is so unacceptable, and I would probably uninvite you from the wedding as well if I was in Aiden's shoes. This is really weird and very controlling, and you really should not have done that. So yes, I really do think you're the jerk, and I think if I was in your shoes, I would definitely be apologizing to Aiden. I would say I'm sorry for what happened, and then just accept whatever decision he makes, because at the end of the day, it's his wedding and Jessica's wedding, and you have no say in what does or doesn't happen at this wedding. I think that I may have ruined my relationship when I called out my boyfriend for lying about his age, and now everything's falling apart, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I met this guy earlier this year, and we really hit it off. He's an incredibly handsome, intelligent, emotionally open, and sweet guy originally from Turkey. I really love spending time with him. He and I can talk for hours about anything. He's so empathetic and insightful, and I've not dated someone I had this kind of ease with in a long time. In fact, I liked him so much that I started on my own to learn Turkish just so we'd have an additional way to communicate. I have an ear for languages and ended up really taking a shine to it. After I'd picked up some basic grammar and vocabulary, I told him I was learning it, and he was overjoyed. It was like a scene out of a bad romance movie. He kept pointing to things at brunch and making me say them in Turkish. He said that he has not met any Americans who would bother to learn his language, and he seemed genuinely moved by this. And I think this brought our relationship to a new level. I started to think this this guy might be that elusive long-term relationship that I've always wanted, but could never usually sustain past a year. Fast forward to a few weeks ago, and I came across his Twitter. He had briefly been a writer in Turkey, and I was curious to see if I could find some of his articles. He didn't tweet much, and it was all in Turkish, but I noticed a photo of himself that he posted from about 5 years ago, because in it he had a gray beard, and I'd only known him as having a black beard, and I had learned enough Turkish by then to be able to read the caption on hand. It said the following: "I'm proud to be 50 years old today. For reference, I'm 40 years old and he's 44, or at least I thought. But now with this new information, I'm finding out that he's actually 55 years old. Now, the mid-50s is probably the ceiling of my age range for dating, but a 55-year-old would not be out of the question. I mean, honestly, once you're both past the age of 30, a lot of that just doesn't matter anymore." He never said directly that he was 44 years old, but that was what was on his Tinder profile. I do remember thinking he looked on the older side, but I didn't think much of it. I mentioned to a few friends what I had found out, and a lot of them thought it was a major red flag. Not that he was older, but that he had lied on his profile. They said that him dyeing his beard meant he was intentionally trying to deceive me. At first, I didn't think it was that bad, and thought maybe he was just a little delicate about how he's aging. Maybe he's having like a midlife crisis or something like that. I gave him some openings to reveal his true age, but he always avoided the subject, and never gave any evidence of when he was born. It was the first time I felt like I really couldn't talk to him directly about something. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I was really uncomfortable about the lie. We were walking together 2 weeks ago, and I looked at his black beard and suddenly blurted out, "You know, you don't have to dye your beard." He looked at me confused and asked what I was talking about. I told him that I knew his beard was really gray and that he did indeed dye it, but I also explained that he didn't have to do that. He said to me, "I don't dye my beard," and it was the first time I knew he lied to me straight to my face. So I told him that I saw his tweet and I knew that he dyed his beard, and that I knew he wasn't in his 40s, but he was in fact in his 50s. But then right away, I told him that it didn't matter to me. I told him that it would be better just to be honest, because what we have is really special. And here's where I really think I messed up, I think. I decided to switch into the Turkish language, and this is something that we sometimes do. I meant to say that I don't care that you're older, but as I played it back in my head, what I really said was that I don't care that you're old. We walked for a bit in silence, and I asked him what he was thinking, but he didn't say much. When we got to the subway station, he said that he had to go home and do some work, so he gave me a kiss and then he left, and we haven't hung out since. We've texted a little bit, but his responses are short, and they are just mostly small talk. He is never free to get together, and I worry that the relationship is over. I mean, what can I do here? Is his lie a bigger red flag than I think it is? And should I let this just end the relationship altogether? Or if not, what should I do to try and fix this? Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. In my opinion, someone lying about their age is a big red flag. I have to agree with your friends. That to me is really not okay, and that is an awful thing to do to somebody. Like, if you want to try and make yourself look younger by dyeing your beard, then just go for it. Who cares? Honestly, nobody actually cares if you do that, because literally everybody does it. It's not that big of a deal, and it's really okay. But for him to straight up lie about his age on the dating profile and basically be like, "Yeah, I'm 44 years old," that in my opinion is really sketchy, because in reality, he's actually like 55 years old. That's a big age difference, and to be deceived like that is really not okay. So yeah, I think the way he's acting is really weird, and if this relationship is over, trust me, this has everything to do with him and absolutely nothing to do with you. Am I the jerk for being late to pick up my boyfriend's mother at the airport? Here's what happened. So my boyfriend's mother went to see her relatives on the other side of the country. Her son couldn't pick her up from the airport due to work, so he asked me if I could, and I said yes. She came in an early flight and would arrive at around 9 o'clock in the morning. It takes me about 30 minutes to get to the airport from my place, so I plan to leave at 8:30 to get there just in time. My boyfriend sent me gas and parking money and warned me that his mother, while being a sweet old lady, does not like to wait and will leave at the very first moment if she doesn't see anyone. He advised to be at the airport 1 hour before. I found that ludicrous and decided to stick to my plan because I wasn't thrilled about the idea of waiting at the airport. And this is right about when the drama kicks in. First, I couldn't get out of my parking space because I was boxed in. That took about 5 minutes from my time. There was traffic along the highway due to a rollover, which is another extra 15 minutes. And finally, my boyfriend's mother's plane arrived 20 minutes early. I mean, come on, this is the perfect storm. I arrived at the airport at 9:20, but by that time, my boyfriend's mother had just taken a taxi and gone home. I called her to apologize, but I only said not to worry about it because I had better things to do. But here's the thing, I didn't. I just didn't listen to my boyfriend's advice. My boyfriend is now angry with me because his mother paid $75 for a taxi. I offered to pay her back, but he said no because it wasn't about the fare, but rather it was about his mother being old and he just wanted someone who he could trust to help her out. Now, in my opinion, I don't think the situation deserves this much drama. I mean, it was just 20 minutes and the old lady couldn't have waited just a little bit. So am I the jerk here? What should I do? Okay, so for me personally, I really can't see both sides of this, but I have to take your boyfriend's side of things. His mom doesn't like to wait, so he tried to be like, hey, you need to be on time, if not a little bit early, because she will not put up with waiting for a second. Like, he did tell you that straight up, and instead of listening to his advice, you decided, oh, I'm just gonna be there whenever I get there. I'm gonna follow my plan and not do anything else. And like, seriously, this is kind of your own fault if you think about it. Who leaves to go to the airport with just barely enough time to get there without accounting for any inevitable traffic or any other kind of delay? Like, for me personally, I always show up early to the airport. In today's day and age, you can't just show up at the last second and expect to catch your flight or even pick someone up on time. So yes, I do think you're the jerk here. I think you should have been more considerate of his mom, and I don't blame your boyfriend for being upset for you being late. My entitled mother has invited herself on my vacation, demanding that she will be traveling with me as I travel to Japan to race in the Tokyo Marathon. But I'm now so completely stressed out over the way she's acting, and I'm now regretting even telling her about this marathon in the first place. And at this point, I seriously now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So let me start off by saying that I've had an awful year so far. I've had scarlet fever, a major car accident, and I'm going through a divorce. So when I was selected for a place in the Tokyo Marathon next year, I honestly couldn't believe my luck, and I really feel so warm just thinking about it. So I then text my mother the good news, explaining that I got a place in the Tokyo Marathon, and immediately she started planning a trip without telling me. I spoke to her on the phone a few days later, and she spoke about hotels and flights that she had found, and I said, no worry, I'll arrange it all. I'm going to be very hotel specific the days before and the night after the marathon. After that, I'm going to travel to other regions. She went silent on the phone. She said to me, but I don't want to do that. And I was honestly so confused when she said that. I asked her what she meant, and she explained how she wanted to stay in one place and not move around again. And I was so confused. I was like, what are you talking about? She then explained how she thought she would come along. I've spent the past few days explaining my initial itinerary to her, to which she just replies that she doesn't like it. I've done my best to gently convince her that I don't think this trip is for her. I explained that she hates walking, she's a picky eater, she is easily frustrated, she gets annoyed and anxious in crowds, but not just that. I honestly can't imagine leaving her alone during marathon day, which starts and ends in different parts of the city. I haven't been able to arrange anything because she is convinced that she's coming along. But here's the thing, I know that she won't like it. She has never expressed an interest in Japan and has even complained about Asian people, which is really an awful thing to do. I just do not want the responsibility of dealing with her outbursts and helping her regulate her emotions. I suggested we take a vacation together to Spain in the summer, and she did seem pleased with that option, but she is still very adamant that she is coming with me. It's actually making me so stressed that I don't want to go anymore, and I kind of wish that I never even told her. I don't know how to let her down gently but firmly without her being upset with me. What should I do? Honestly, you just need to be upfront with her. You need to tell her straight up, you're not coming with me on this trip. This trip is my thing, it's my hobby, and I don't want to babysit you in Tokyo. Something along those lines, but still being very firm and upfront, would probably be very good for your mother to hear. She clearly doesn't care about any problems that are going to arise. She sounds like a very emotionally unstable person. She's going to be really frustrated easily. She's not going to want to eat any of the food there, and this is going to be a burden on you and your special event. Like, seriously, think about it. You got selected to be in the Tokyo Marathon. That doesn't just happen. I'm willing to assume that you worked very hard just to snag that spot. But here comes your mother trying to ruin this chance for you. She's basically trying to take this opportunity away from you and in a roundabout way ruin your entire trip. And I don't think she means to do that. It kind of seems like her nature and the way she acts is just gonna spoil the mood. And if I was in your shoes, I would not want that in the slightest. I would want to be focused on the marathon and then have time to decompress and really enjoy my time in Japan. Like, I don't even know your mom, and I definitely would not want to travel with her. I mean, I would give her maybe 8 hours on the plane, and then I would probably expect to hear her starting to complain about literally everything. She's tired, she doesn't feel good, she doesn't want to do this or that, and you've got the right idea. Trust me, I completely understand where you're coming from. If you go to Japan, you need to be ready to follow their customs, and one of those is that you walk around pretty much everywhere. I know friends that I've talked to have basically said that you're on foot like most of the time, and if she doesn't like walking around, she's going to be miserable in Japan. And that's literally just going to be a burden on you specifically, because you're going to have to be there to babysit her the entire time. And I don't know about you, but if I'm going on a special trip overseas to another country, the last thing I want to do is try and babysit someone who very clearly should not be there. So if I was in your shoes, I would be completely upfront. There's no way I would want her to come along with me, because that is honestly going to be an unfair burden on you. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My husband freaks out on me over the smallest things possible, getting angry and pouty for hours on end, while also refusing to talk to me in a rational manner. And after this most recent event, I'm honestly at my breaking point, and now I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So for starters, my husband and I went out to dinner, and we were having a lovely time. We didn't have our phones out, we had a lovely conversation there and on the way home, but when we got home, I accidentally dropped his leftovers. He was driving, so I had my purse and his box in my hands, and I was trying to place it on the porch just to try and reorganize myself, and the box fell onto the steps. But only a little bit of food fell out, so I thought that it was fine. But he flipped out. He said to me, "Why did you do that?" And he was pretending like accidents don't exist. I apologized profusely, and I said to him, "Only a little bit fell out. You only lost a little bit. It really is okay. I'll put it back in the fridge." But he says to me, "No, it all fell out. It's all ruined." But I doubled down. I said to him again, "No, just this little bit hit the ground. That's on the steps right now, as well as this part sticking out right here." The food in question was chili, so I start to brush off the chili sticking out with my hand to just knock it off the container, but he just said, "Just throw it out." And even though I tried to say that it was fine, he then started screaming, "Throw it out. I'm not gonna eat it. It's my money. I can do whatever I want." Now, dear listener, for the record, it was my money. I paid for dinner tonight, and I'm currently unemployed. When he gets mad like this, he stays mad for hours, and I even tried to calm him down. I apologized, but he just said, "Apologies don't matter." I then asked him what I can do to make things better, but he just said that he wants me to leave him alone. So I avoided him for hours. I watered my plants, I worked on homework, and just now he was going to bed, and it was 5 hours later. He then says to me, "I'm hungry and I have nothing to eat." So I told him that he can eat my leftovers from earlier, but he said to me, "I don't want your leftovers." So I then offered to go to a restaurant and get some more chili. I mean, I was thinking about doing that anyways, but he just said to me, "I open up tomorrow. I can't wait for you." And I tried one last time to try and come up with some kind of solution. I said to him, "Look, I can go to the corner store to get some chips and a frozen dinner," but he wasn't having it. He just said to me, "No, I'll just go to bed hungry." At this point, I've learned not to fight with him when he gets mad, because whenever I criticize his actions, he blames me for spinning the blame back onto him, as well as trying to make it his fault. I grew up in a family where no one ever apologized, and I hated it. He and I used to fight a lot in the beginning, and I learned quickly that I also had a problem with apologizing. I learned that you can't apologize for hurting someone's feelings or reacting how you did. Apologizing is a reserve for whoever is wrong in that situation, and I really think I got better. But sometimes I think maybe I went to the other extreme, because I'll apologize and apologize again, and nothing ever makes it better. I will grovel and beg for him to forgive me, but he gets so pouty and angry, and I just get frustrated. Like, it has been hours. Usually I let him stew overnight, he goes to work angry, and it will take a full 24 hours for him to apologize for how he reacted. But when I do something wrong, I don't get to mull it over for an entire day, because he'll be all pouty that I got angry with him, and again I have to grovel and beg for him to forgive me because I hurt his feelings. But I was frustrated, so I said to him, "You know what? You are so stubborn. I told you that not all the chili fell out. You told me to throw it away, but if you had just let me put it in the fridge, you would have had something to eat." He then says to me, "Great, so it's my fault again." Honestly, everything after that was such a blur. I think I said a few more sentences and walked away. I think I tried to say that it's no one's fault, that it was just an accident, but what I do remember is that he said something about not wanting to hear excuses. So I said to him, "Excuses? It was just an accident." Honestly, right now I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say anymore, but I'm honestly so tired of this cycle. He just wandered into the kitchen, and I hear him sniffing, which means it's time for me to beg and grovel for forgiveness because I hurt his feelings. I don't know how to prevent these outbursts. I mean, honestly, what do I do? How do I deal with this? His love language is physical touch, but he doesn't want to be touched when he's mad. Then he gets pouty and sometimes he wants a hug. Sometimes though, he doesn't. I went in to ask him if he wanted me to get something for him to eat, and he just said, I just want to not be alive. And I said to him, I'm sorry for dropping your chili. I'm sorry that you're hungry. I don't know what to do to make it better, but I'm tired of going through this cycle of you getting angry for hours, me then avoiding you for hours, and then I say something that upsets you, and then you just get pouty. I don't know what else to do. He then said to me, you're talking about cycles, just get out of my face. And he's all curled up in his blankets too, by the way. I feel like I'm always pushing my feelings aside to cater to his. And when I've said that to him before, he responds by saying, great, you're putting it back on me and it's my fault again. Everything is always my fault. I am so tired. Literally, I'm so exhausted. I want to go to bed, but he wants me to avoid him, and if I go in there, he'll leave bed to sleep on the recliner and then complain about how he didn't get a good night's sleep and how he is going to have an awful day. We always do this song and dance. Like a few years ago, we would just yell at each other and keep fighting, and it was always as we were falling asleep. So I'd be in bed trying to fall asleep, but we couldn't sleep. Not until we talked through it. Because, you know, you're not supposed to go to bed mad, but then we'll be awake until 2 in the morning. I have begged for him to go to therapy. I mean, I go to therapy. I've been in therapy. And I thought he was getting close to going after his father passed away, but that didn't happen. I used to write him emails when he was mad so he could read my apologies, but he never even did that. I used to talk to my mom about it, and then he'd get mad at me for talking to my mom about us. He thinks that it should be private, but therapy apparently isn't private enough because a therapist is a stranger. I really don't think there's anything left to do on my end. I feel like I've exhausted all avenues, so I'm honestly looking for advice. What can I improve on? Should I just convince him to go to therapy? Look, I love him a lot. This is the only thing that drives me crazy. This is where we're the most dysfunctional, and it doesn't happen a lot, but when it does, it's over spilled chili. Today was my breaking point. I have to get people involved because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, first and foremost, your husband sounds like a basket case. He does not sound like a good person in the slightest. He is straight up guilt tripping you and trying to make it seem like all of his problems and the way he's reacting to things is somehow your fault. Mind you, this is a 31-year-old man. He absolutely should be in more control of his emotions. This man freaked out over spilled chili. Like, dude, are you kidding me right now? Chili is not that important. Like, seriously, why would you get that upset at your wife for dropping it? Is it really that big of a deal to treat her like garbage and start blowing up on her? I mean, talk about the overreaction of the century. And also, this guy's trying to play this guilt-tripping pity party garbage by basically pushing all this guilt on you and forcing you to grovel and beg as if you did anything wrong. But honestly, throughout this entire thing, I really have not seen anything that you've done that would be considered wrong. You have been forced to skate around this guy's weird emotions, as well as his outbursts that basically make him look like a toddler. Like, seriously, he's curled up in his blankets, pouting and super angry that you hurt his feelings. Meanwhile, he's screaming at you over spilled chili. Like, this guy's a massive hypocrite. But you know what? When it really comes down to it, I'm not sure if there really is anything you can do to try and make him change his ways or treat you better. Like, his behavior is so irrational. He's acting like a manipulative bully while also simultaneously pretending to be a toddler. I can only imagine living in that kind of situation. It has to be exhausting. Every single day of your life, you're walking on eggshells, constantly apologizing while also being mentally messed with by a man who can't control his emotions. So hopefully some kind of solution comes together, because the way you've been treated by your husband is so inappropriate, and you absolutely do not deserve this in the slightest. Am I the jerk for not giving a family engagement ring to my stepsister, who ended up getting engaged before I did? Here's what happened. So for starters, when my dad proposed to my mom, my paternal grandparents, also known as my dad's parents, gave him a ring from their family to propose to mom with. My grandparents adored my mom and saw her as a daughter, especially since they had 4 boys, and they wanted to welcome her into the family with the ring. She absolutely treasured it, and before she passed away, she and they had discussed my grandparents keeping it safe for me. After my mom passed away, my dad remarried. His second wife was upset that she wasn't offered the ring like my mom was. My grandparents explained it was being kept safe for me, as the last owner had wanted her only child, also known as me, to have it when she was ready. My dad's wife came into the marriage with a daughter, just like dad had done with me. I was 9 and she was 7, but fast forward to present day, and I am 22 years old and she is 20. My stepsister got engaged engaged a few weeks ago. Her boyfriend proposed without a ring because he wanted her to pick one out. So she decided to ask my dad if she could have the family engagement ring. He asked my grandparents and they flat out said no. His wife told my grandparents that it might not be me, but the ring would still be going to their granddaughter. But they said it was not going to the granddaughter it was intended for, and that my stepsister was not my mom's daughter. Therefore, she would not be entitled to it, and my mom would have hated to see it go to my stepsister. When speaking to my grandparents failed, my dad and his wife came to me. My stepsister was upset that they didn't overrule what my mom wanted. She has some abandonment issues, all because her dad abandoned her. Neither side of her biological family want her, and my grandparents and uncles are the only extended family she ever had, but she always felt like they favored me because of how much they love my mom, and how often they spoke about her and about us, namely my mom and I. Them turning her down really got her down, so my dad and his wife wanted me to make it up to her and wanted me to take the ring and then give it to her. My dad said it would mean so much to my stepsister, and while it would mean I don't get that ring, I could still get another ring, and it would make another family member very happy. His wife said they both had lived in my mom's shadow from day one, and this could be a time where they are not treated as secondary to my mom. She said her daughter always adored me and never saw me as a stepsister, and it hurt her that I never saw her as a sister. She said I could do this and make her feel loved like she deserves. I did end up refusing to give my stepsister the ring, and my dad and his wife told me that I was being selfish. So I've gotta know, am I the jerk in this situation for not giving a family engagement ring to my stepsister who got engaged before me? What should I do? I really do not think that you're the jerk here. Like, why is the stepmom and the stepsister so invested in getting that ring? Like, wouldn't they want the ring to somehow be connected to you? I mean, this doesn't even belong to either of them. It's almost like they're seeing this as some kind of opportunity to try and get ahead and be like, oh wow, we're not second-class citizens anymore. Which, by the way, I'm very hard-pressed to even believe that for a second. This is probably one of those situations where they think this is the truth in their head, but in reality, no one's ever treated them that way, and their own insecurities are being projected on everybody else. I'm also willing to bet that nobody's been rude to them in any kind of way. It probably got to them that everybody really adored this original poster's mother, and they really speak highly of her and have tried to keep her memory alive. And honestly, if I was a grandparent in this situation, I probably would do the same thing. Like, why wouldn't I try and keep their memory alive? And also, why would I not try and keep the ring and give it to the actual daughter who's supposed to get it? Like, in my opinion, the original poster made the correct decision. Keep the ring for yourself and let your stepsister and your stepmom start a new tradition. Why should you have to give up yours just because they're jealous? And that's honestly all this seems like. It seems like it's just a bunch of sour grapes trying to stomp on something your mother wanted to give you. So no, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think you did the right thing by turning them down, and honestly, if they have a problem with that, that is literally their problem and not yours. My 11 roommates went on a weekend vacation without me, and now I seriously don't know what to do. So basically, up to a month ago, I was living with my parents for undergraduate studies at a college near my home. Because of my lack of a social life that was kind of making me feel low, I decided to move to the capital of my country for graduate studies. I found online a room that was for rent, and it was near the college with 11 other roommates. There were 3 girls and 8 boys. Even if it was really expensive, I instantly chose this one, because in my head, it would be a great introduction to this new city, especially with all of these new people. Well, long story short, we did get along well, but the thing is that they've known each other for years, because they all went to high school together, and that includes literally everybody in the house. So there wasn't this process of getting to know everyone in like a week or even a day. They were like, oh, you're the new guy, and then they just went about with their stuff. Sometimes I eat with them, and sometimes I grab lunch outside. They've been using this game console in the living room for like 3 years, and the console in question is the Wii. So I brought my Nintendo Switch and bought a couple of multiplayer games to enjoy together, even though I usually mostly play single-player games. They party most of the nights in the apartment and bring other people, and honestly, it doesn't bother me because I have sound reduction headphones on, so I hear almost nothing. I partied a bit, it was kind of cool, but I told them that I won't be able to do that every day because, well, I need to focus on my schooling, and I like to have private, not drunk times as well. Last week, when a bunch of us were in the living room, they were talking about going on a weekend at a house that they would rent. It was mostly a discussion between them, and I just kind of listened, and one guy asked me if I wanted to join. I said, yeah, of course, that would be great. Well, the week goes by, and they talk about it sometimes, but this Friday, my last class finished at 4 p.m., and then when I went back to the apartment, nobody was there. there. I thought they must still have classes or something like that, so I decided that I'll use this remaining time to see if I didn't forget anything in my suitcase that I packed for the weekend. The hours go by, and then I saw text messages and pictures in the group chat being sent, which were mostly about them at the house taking selfies. I sat for a couple of minutes on my bed. Then I muted the notifications of the group chat, I unpacked my stuff, and I just went to bed. I spent the weekend doing my stuff, walking in the park nearby and studying for a little bit. I think they will be back today at midnight, but I'm really not sure about how to react to this. It's not like I'm deeply heartbroken or anything like that. It has been only 3 weeks since college started. They're not my best friends or anything like that, but I do feel a bit sad. I mean, should I say something like, "Hey, how was your weekend you asked me to join in on?" But in the end, you just left without me and barely even noticed it. I honestly just need to write this somewhere because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Personally, I would not get bent out of shape over this. You said it yourself. You have only known these people for what, 3 weeks? Like, these people have known each other for a very long time. You literally are the odd man out. You don't know the group dynamics very well. You don't know them very well. I mean, sure, they forgot you, but also you weren't very proactive about confirming any plans. Like, why wouldn't you communicate more and be like, "Hey, just wanted to check in. Where is this place that we're going to over the weekend?" And then you can snag the details and be there for when it happens. I don't know, it kind of seems like you had one conversation with them and then you didn't follow up about it at all for the rest of the week. And sure, don't get me wrong, what they did is awful and they really did leave you behind, but in my opinion, you were way too passive about this. You just let it slip by and you didn't even do anything about it leading up to the event. So truly, the next time you want to be involved in something, I think you need to be more proactive, because honestly, people are not going to carry you along if you don't make the effort yourself. But overall, I'm really sorry that this happened, and hopefully you can find some better friends in the future. My entitled mother demands that I watch her cats while she figures out her moving situation, forcing them upon me and practically making my one-bedroom studio apartment an absolute nightmare. But now my landlord is calling, informing me that they know I have cats in my apartment, and now I'm concerned that I may get evicted unless my mom comes back and gets her cats. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my mother and my youngest are moving to the United Kingdom in literally a few weeks. She sold my grandfather's house as it was no longer needed, but she didn't plan very well. She didn't plan a place to stay after the house was sold, as she claimed she didn't expect the house to be sold so fast. And so once the house was sold, she started staying with my oldest sister, even without asking, just expecting her to let her, which they unfortunately did. Originally, she was gonna make me let her and my little sister stay, but as I live in a studio apartment with just a bedroom, a kitchen, and lounge in one room, I told her it was not possible. After an argument or two, she said that I have to keep the cats then until she can figure out a temporary foster home. Now, she procrastinates severely, so she is being very slow on that point. She hasn't even booked tickets yet. She has over a dozen cats and she is taking 5 with her to the United Kingdom. The rest are gonna be adopted out. However, these cats aren't trained very well, and being in a studio, it clutters the place up. I told her I can take a few, but not all of them. My house doesn't allow pets, so I told her at first I can't, but then she went on a rant about how she's helped me so many times, and that it's the things we do for family that really count. Now, I've already gotten an email from my real estate saying that they know I have cats here, and that I need to get rid of them. Luckily, they're nice as I explain my situation, basically telling them that I'm just helping her out for a little bit. I expected them to stay for like 2 weeks, but it's been almost 2 months. They have made the place smell terrible and keep scratching up my carpet stairs. They keep climbing up to the window edge and knocking things down and waking me up in the middle of the night. I've slept in because of lack of sleep, while also missing a lot of university classes as a result. My partner doesn't mind cats, but when they're jumping all over us in the middle of the night, it's honestly hard to deal with. And the smell too. No matter how many times I clean the litter trays, one of them keeps urinating on my clothes in the wardrobe, no matter how many times I close it and try to keep it closed. At the moment, the cat shelters and such are packed full, but boarding kennels absolutely can take them. I've told my mom that I can't have them, and that boarding kennels are an option, but she claims that they need certain requirements, yet she hasn't even looked any up, and I have. I explained to her how they work, and she still won't listen to me. Anytime I try to explain any of this, she gets defensive, calling me a selfish jerk, and that this is what family does for each other. My youngest sister is calling me selfish for not helping, and my oldest sister calls me the same thing. And now at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Your mom and your sisters are completely wrong. They are absolutely taking advantage of you, and if you're not careful, you're gonna get evicted. evicted. Like seriously, they knew that you couldn't have cats at your place. And now practically your landlords know about you having cats. And you know what? Thank goodness they actually understand your situation. Because I've met some pretty heartless landlords, as I'm sure some of you have as well. And you should seriously be counting your lucky stars that they are even giving you any kind of buffer towards getting this taken care of. So if I was in your shoes, I would call up my mother and I would be like, look, you need to figure this out and I'm gonna give you a week. If she doesn't do anything about this, in my opinion, I would either drop it off at my sister's place or I would take it to one of the shelters. Those are her options. And if she seriously doesn't like it, then that's straight up her problem, not yours. You cannot keep these cats because you're going to get evicted. And in my opinion, the risk of dealing with these cats even a little bit longer is simply not worth the trouble that your mom has put you in. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled aunts and uncles are stealing from my dying grandmother, taking money that was meant for her in the hospital to help her with all of her medical bills and using it to buy stuff for themselves. And I'm so disgusted by their behavior, and now I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. My grandmother fell deathly ill after sustaining trauma, broken bones, bruises, head trauma, and subsequent onset of dementia. She required a nasogastric tube just to stay alive, and as you can guess, the medical bills skyrocketed. She has 7 children, of which only 3 are really financially contributing to the expenses, and my dad is one of those people. I sent some money over to help because I love my grandma. She helped raise me, she cooked and fed me, she carried me around. I love her, and helping her was a sentimental decision. But unfortunately, that didn't matter, because my uncle, who is one of her sons, used my contribution to purchase a refrigerator for his wife. He allocated a compartment of the fridge for my grandmother's use, and it's honestly pretty clear the end goal is to claim full ownership of the fridge after she passes away. My grandmother needed a medical assistant bed that had to be purchased. He moved her large bed with canopy into his wife's bedroom while she was in the hospital, not in the guest bedroom where her kids could rest in when visiting to help look after her. They removed her jewelry and sold them for cash. These people are my grandmother's favorite kids. My uncles and aunts bicker about money, and I mean, that's their business. But I sent money to help fund her medical expenses, not to buy my uncle a stupid fridge for his wife. And I didn't get a thank you or any kind of acknowledgement. They act as if I didn't send any help. And this is all because I'm gay, by the way. And because I'm gay, they think it's fine to steal from their nephew. I'm enraged, I'm hurt, I'm bitter, and this was honestly the final straw. I'm so done caring for these people. I'm sorry my grandma won't receive the help that she needs, but there's nothing else I can do besides sending cash because I live abroad. I have no words in my vocabulary to insult them. They're honestly not worth it. And I hate that I share genes with these people. They're twice my age, they're religious, and they're stealing from their mother and their nephew all before their mother is dead. If Hades exists, it's not bad enough for people like them. I'm so sick to my stomach and I honestly don't know what to do. That is seriously messed up. I'm pretty sure that what they're doing might be illegal. Like, think about it. They're taking the jewelry of this grandmother, they're selling it for cash, they're taking the money that was meant for your grandma specifically, and they're using it to buy a fridge. This is all like super shady stuff, and there's no way I would sit there and let that just happen. So I know if I was in your shoes, I would either start making a very big deal about this on social media, or I would be going to the police. Like seriously, there's no good excuse for this. There's no way this is appropriate, and honestly, these people seriously need to check themselves, because at the end of the day, your grandmother is passing away. She's in a very vulnerable situation, and honestly, she doesn't need people stealing from her like that. So hopefully something can be done about this, otherwise this is only going to cause more problems in the future. Am I the jerk for telling my sister about my partner's plastic surgery after my sister started to get obsessed about her looks after my partner lied about having plastic surgery? Here's what happened. My girlfriend and I moved to Europe a few years ago, and she ended up getting a lot of plastic surgery while we were out there, and it was all stuff that I begged her not to get. She got a blepharoplasty, a nose job, fillers, a chin surgery, and I don't even know what else. I hate to say it, but it really decreased her attractiveness. Don't get me wrong, she is still beautiful, but not nearly as gorgeous as what she used to look like. It also just makes me sad that she removed all the features that I loved on her face. It's also sad that people think these are features they need to remove. She looks hollowed out and really tired, but she doesn't want to admit that she got plastic surgery. We were back home from Europe, and people started commenting on her looks at dinner. In fact, one of her friends just straight out asked if she got something done, and she said no. She said it was just aging, and of course she was going to look different now that she's 27. At this point, I was shocked. I could not believe she was playing that card when the results are so dramatic. It was so obvious that she was lying, but no one called her out on it. My sister has been staying at my parents' house because I'm here, and she has been weirdly obsessing about her looks ever since that dinner. She is only 24 and she is truly a baby. 24 seems so young now, or at least she really does make it look very young. She admitted that seeing my girlfriend brought up feelings of anxiety towards aging. She said she didn't know people could change so much and it was stressing her out. She started calling me and freaking out about a line she found on her forehead, which was hardly even noticeable at all. She isn't a person that is super fixated on her looks, at least normally that is, so this honestly really surprised me. But she was buying a lot of anti-aging skincare and applying it multiple times a day. But I told her she was fine. All she had to do was moisturize and wear sunscreen. I mean, I look the same as I did at 24, but she wasn't buying it and it was obvious why. It hurt so much to see her like that. She kept putting retinol on her face and would ask me daily if I see lines going away when there were no lines in the first place. After a while of her spiraling, one day I finally broke down and I said to her, "Dude, are you really freaking out about aging because of my girlfriend? Chill out, she got plastic surgery. You don't just randomly start to have totally different features after you hit 25. You are going to look exactly how you look right now at 27, so just relax." She is way too young to be hyperfixating on her looks, as well as worrying about aging at the age of 24. She has an obsessive personality sometimes and really gets fixated on things, probably because of an anxiety disorder. So just telling her that made her drop the subject, thank God. Now, I told her weeks ago, but last week, my girlfriend asked if I told anyone about her plastic surgery. I admitted I did tell my sister because I didn't want to lie about it, and now she is very mad at me. Was I wrong to tell her? I mean, my girlfriend didn't outright say not to tell people, but it was obvious that she wanted me to lie for her and expected me to do that. At the end of the day, my sister's well-being and mental health matters to me more than anything or anyone. She is naive, maybe more than you would expect from a 24-year-old, and I feel like I need to protect her. When I told her my girlfriend lied and had plastic surgery, she said to me, "I didn't think she would lie to me about that." And my sister looks up to me and my girlfriend a lot. Fast forward, and I have not talked to my girlfriend about the future. I've realized I've lost a lot of respect for her, not because of the plastic surgery and changing her appearance. I mean, I had accepted that overall, but she was fine with lying to my sister and watching her spiral into obsession. I kept bringing it up to her that my sister was struggling, and she would just deflect and say a lot of young women care about their looks and that she'll get over it eventually. And this seriously rubbed me the wrong way. My sister is my best friend and my only real family that I have. I'd like to think that a partner would see how important she is to me and prioritize her mental well-being. Now, this did happen about a week ago, so my girlfriend did not break up with me, but I do feel that we need to talk about the future. It's also important to add that my sister didn't tell anybody about her plastic surgery, and she never would. She has kept far worse secrets of mine. My girlfriend is self-conscious about someone finding out, and she'd ask me every once in a while if I told anyone. And that's honestly how this came up. My sister isn't going around gossiping about her appearance or anything like that, and honestly, she would never do that even in the first place. So this is honestly such a messy situation, and I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, this is a really weird one. Like, is your girlfriend seriously trying to lie about having plastic surgery? I mean, I don't know about you, but it doesn't take a genius to see right away that yes, she probably had something done. I would be willing to bet that pretty much anybody most of the time can spot pretty quickly when someone's had something done on their face. And I'm talking about cosmetic surgery, not like the actual surgeries where people need to have something done to themselves. That's completely different, and you should never judge someone for something like that. Like, sure, you don't have to admit that you've had surgery done, but if you're going to be called out on it, at least have the common decency to be like, yeah, I did have something done. Because otherwise, you're just making yourself look like a fool. Plastic surgery for cosmetic reasons is like this uncanny valley. Unless the surgeon is like really good, people are gonna spot that pretty much right away. I'm not saying that getting plastic surgery is wrong. Do whatever you want with your life. But lying about it when asked directly is really sketchy behavior. So no, I don't think you're the jerk in this situation. I think you were just trying to protect your sister, and the way your girlfriend went about doing this was honestly completely unacceptable. My entitled boss threatens to fire me if I don't work on the days that I requested off. So I decided to throw caution to the wind, letting them know that I would quit instead of sticking around. And I've never felt better about getting away from a toxic job in my life. Here's what happened. So a few years back, I worked on a relief crew on a drilling rig. The rig ran 24 hours a day with 3 shifts. Crews worked 6 days and then 2 days off. My crew would replace a working crew so they could have their 2 days off. So we worked mornings for 2 days, then afternoons, and then nights. It was common to find someone to take a shift if you wanted an extra day off, but
but the replacement had to have the same abilities, and a crew had several different roles, such as a motorman, a driller, a chain hand, and a floor hand. People started as a floor hand, and as they learned, they would work their way up with more responsibility and more pay. Sometimes when someone changed companies, they might take a lower position, so it was common to have somebody who had a lot of experience working the motor or the chain. In September, my wife asked about the chances of getting off for Christmas. I checked the calendar, and my days off fell on December 24th and December 25th. So it was a done deal and I had it scheduled off. Then I decided to sweeten the pot. I found a guy who would work December 22nd and December 23rd for me, and I also found one who would work the 26th and the 27th. I took this to my driller who agreed they could work with me. With my 6 days off, I could drive the 400 miles to visit my family. Things looked pretty sweet, or so I thought. The other guys on my crew were in the same position, so they all tried to find replacements and 2 were successful. Unfortunately, the driller only had 3 other guys on the rig who could work for him, and none of them wanted to help. He got mad and said that since he couldn't get the time off, none of us could get our time off. So I reminded him that he had already approved my time, and he said that was canceled, and if I didn't work on December 23rd, then I would be fired. I told him, fine, I will work the 23rd, but that will be my last day of work. Consider this my 3 months notice. Well, back at work, nothing much was said for the next few weeks. Outside of work, I was networking and found another job I could start the first week of January, and with that, everything was finally set up. At the end of my shift on the 23rd, I emptied my work locker and I said my goodbyes. And you know what? The driller barely acknowledged me. I went home and I drove to see the family the next day. I spent a relaxing week there and then came back to start my new job. About the end of January, I went to a friend's birthday party. There, I saw one of my old crew. He asked me when I was going back to work. The driller thought I was still sulking around and would come crawling back soon. He never did hire a replacement, and they had been working shorthanded for over a month. I said he better hire somebody because I wasn't playing games, and when I said I quit, I absolutely meant it. Good for the original poster for standing up for themselves. First of all, it sounds like your boss is an absolute jerk. They were seriously going to stop you from getting your time off. Like, think about it for a second. You already put your time in. You already said, hey, I'm gonna take off these days. And you gave them like, what, 3 months of a notice to get that figured out? And now just because this one guy can't get his time off, he's now gonna cancel everybody's vacation plans? Like, seriously, that is unfair. That's a big red flag in my opinion, and that guy should not be in a leadership role. And you know what? Here's the thing. Everybody's been in that situation. We've all been stuck having to work through the holidays or something like that. So the fact that this guy would act so weird and basically throw a hissy fit and try and ruin everybody else's plans, all because nobody wanted to give up any of their time, that is so unbelievably toxic. So truly, good for you for finding another job. These people sound like they absolutely suck, and it's so ironic that he didn't even hire a replacement. He thought you would come crawling back, but you know what? You're much better than that, and you do not deserve to deal with these people in the slightest. Am I the jerk for telling my niece that she'll have to move out if she does not want to be a nanny for my kids any longer? Here's what happened. So I first want to start off by saying that I'm a single mom with 2 kids. One is 8 years old and one is 6 years old. I work as a nurse 3 days a week. I work 12-hour shifts from 12 p.m. until 12 a.m. After my husband passed away, I needed a nanny to tend to my kids from the time they got off school, which was about 3 p.m., all the way until the end of the day. I decided a live-in was the best choice, especially since I have a 1-guest bedroom. I live right near a university, and around this time, my niece had just gotten accepted. She wanted to save cost on dorms and offered to watch my kids those 3 days. In exchange, she wanted to live there with us rent-free. I agreed and said that I would pay her $22 an hour, which is a competitive rate for our area. She's done with her classes by 1 o'clock, so it honestly kind of works out. She fixes them dinner, puts them to bed, then she's free to do whatever she wants. But of course, I pay her from 3 p.m. until 12:30 a.m. And this worked for about 2 years, and my niece never had any complaints. Now, however, my niece is getting an unpaid internship related to her major that starts up in January, so she would not be available to watch my kids. I told her congratulations, and then I said I could help her look into student housing or an apartment. I mean, we would only have 3 months to do this after all. Now, when I said that, she was very confused. I said to her that since I would need a live-in and I only have 1 guest room, she would have to move out. My niece then got very upset and said that this isn't fair. She won't be able to save any money if she gets a dorm or an apartment. And honestly, while she could afford to live on her own, she wouldn't have much in terms of savings. I pointed out that this would work best for me as I had to put my kids in aftercare the other 2
2 days that I work. I get off at around 5 o'clock, and the nanny could just pick them up from school, as opposed to them having to stay there for so long. My niece argued that the nanny could leave at the end of her shift, but after speaking to some nannies, they understandably so don't want to drive home so late. Plus, I'm fine with the nanny falling asleep after the kids do, so there's no sense in them sleeping, then waking up, and driving so drowsy. Even I feel nervous driving home so late, especially after my long shift. My sister-in-law, who's my niece's mom, feels that this is unfair for my niece, but she moved in under the condition that she would work as a nanny. My sister-in-law and brother live about 3 hours away, so my niece wouldn't be able to commute if she moved back in with them. They feel I should try and find a nanny who'd be willing to drive home at 12:30 at night, but honestly, all nannies I've spoken to have said no or expressed concern about their safety driving so late. Now, when it comes to the internship itself that my niece is getting, the internship is all semester long, and my niece isn't interested in being a nanny moving forward at all, and will instead just be pursuing this internship, so she has no desire to work after her internship is done for the day. She knew from the jump that I was looking for a live-in specifically for childcare, and at this point, with all the trouble I'm dealing with, I provided her a written notice, just so I can cover my butt legally. So I really need to know, am I the jerk for telling my niece that she needs to move out if she's not going to be a nanny for my children any longer? I don't think you're the jerk at all. This is completely reasonable, and I don't understand why your sister-in-law and your brother are acting so weird. Like seriously, she moved in to be a live-in. That was her main job and main employment opportunity. I mean, you were paying her what, $22 an hour? That is a very competitive rate, and I think you were doing her a really big favor just by saying, hey, let me pay you for your time. You very easily could have been like, nah, you'll just live here rent-free. That's enough payment for me in my opinion. But no, you decided to pay her and make sure she was making some kind of money. And that's the deal. If she wants to live here, she has to be a nanny for your kids. But now that she's picking up an internship, the entire setup is now completely different. You can only justify someone living in your house with you if they're willing to be a nanny and take care of your kids. Like you need someone who can cover for you when you're working those 12-hour shifts, which by the way, those are probably exhausting, especially as a nurse no less. So truly, I don't blame you for saying the niece has got to move out. Her days are numbered, she's got to find somewhere else to live, and honestly, that is not your fault. She knew what she was getting into, and she knew what the deal was if she wanted to live there. And if she no longer wants to be a nanny for your children, then trust me, I'm right there with you. She absolutely has got to go. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, make sure to subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.